If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance, declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com. And welcome to the Dan Bidondi Show right here on TruthRadioShow.com. And we got an awesome show today, guys. We got the continuation from last week, demonic manifestations, occult practices, and SRA, which is sexual ritual abuse, satanic ritual abuse, exposed from within, spiritual warfare part 2. And if you didn't see the show last week, guys, don't worry. It's we just did an introduction of different secret societies and occult practices and all that. So today's going to be different. It's just a continuation because Emileigh's coming on for the second week in a row. She didn't get into her personal experiences yet. So we're going to do that in a minute. But before you do, I want to go to a brief word from our sponsors that support us, that support you, you support them. Works for everybody. So I'll be right back.
This is not some soulless factory. This is long, quiet days with the Father. This is obedience. This is cold, early mornings, tired, rough hands, and hot summer days. This is quality before quantity. This is where you're not just a customer, you're a client. I don't just work for you, but with you. This is where your ideas come to life. I am Joshua Watts. I love what I do and that I'm able to use my skills to serve our Father and you. I look forward to working with you. This is Joshua Watts Leather Company.
We all need good tools. At Cascadia Cutlery, you'll find the most quality knives you'll ever need. There are few things more frustrating than a dull blade. Buy the best knife you can afford and then actually carry it at CascadiaCutlery.com.
If this is true, then our country is in a lot of trouble.
We would have these trips, these special trips.
But he said, my daddy takes the bodies to the grocery store and he grinds them up and puts it in the hamburger. And nobody ever knows it.
How can kids 6, 8, 10 years old be describing rituals that come from a book like the Book of the Dead? It's hard to get your mind around people being capable of this kind of evil.
This is Dan Bidondi of TruthRadioShow.com. I am honored to offer my listeners a 1-month free subscription to nystv.org. Subscribers will have access to thousands of Now You See TV videos from spiritual warfare to biblical and occultic topics, banned from YouTube videos, and much more. Subscribe today on nystv.org and use the promo code Dan the Man and receive your first month free. And welcome back, guys. And yeah, please help support our sponsors and all support each other. It's awesome stuff. So yeah, demonic manifestations, occult practices, and SRA exposed from within. Spiritual warfare part 2, and part 2 with Emileigh here. So without further ado, let's bring Emileigh on. How you doing, Emileigh?
Hey guys, Shabbat Shalom. I'm good, Dan. How you doing?
Oh, awesome. Enjoying the Shabbat here.
Yes, definitely.
So, Emileigh, if you want to give one more time, you did last week, quick introduction to yourself, then we can start rolling into some of your experiences that you had, because a lot of people were highly in tune, just like, hey, you got to bring it back on, and we want to hear our experiences and all that. And like we talked about, don't hold nothing back, because people need to hear the hard, cold truth, you know what I mean? And it's going to help a lot of people as well. And, this is what it's about, testimony.
Yeah, definitely, and I can do that. I do want to put a little disclaimer out there. If you have any kids or anyone who's younger that you don't really want around hearing this stuff, it's probably a good time to shuffle them elsewhere. And also, there's going to be some things that I don't go into great detail about because I don't feel it'll profit anyone to know all of the details. But I'll try and talk about things with at least enough reference to where anyone who may have gone through it or is aware of it or whatnot can relate and can understand without, because I'm not trying to re-traumatize anybody either. I'm trying to be very careful about that. And just kind of what I expose other people to that may be beyond the details they need. So, is that okay? Okay. So basically, my name is Emileigh Briscoe, and I come from a long line of people who originally, as far back as I was able to trace and have any knowledge of, come from Scotland and Ireland of Celtic descent. And in my family, there was a long line of nobility in Ireland and Scotland, lords, barons, different titles like that, who ended up rubbing elbows with some pretty prominent families and people over there and later migrated to England before making their way over to the States. And they were involved in, various different sects of pagan religions, such as Druidism and part of the Scottish Rite. And there's some things I haven't been able to completely nail down and verify, but there was talk of Templars being involved, etc., from many hundreds of years back. But so basically, once they came to the United States, a lot of my ancestors held pretty prominent positions. They were judges, they were politicians, high officers in the military. On my mother's side, there's actually a few counties. Well, in Indiana, for one, there's Vanderburgh County that was named after that maternal line. Which bothers me to this day, because that's actually like right around Evansville, and that whole, if anyone knows anything about that area, it's just like a pit of darkness. But anyways, so between those two lines, there was a lot of influence, a lot of hierarchy taking place, a lot of things brought into the early colonies that were definitely not Puritan, that were actually part of the reason for a lot of the corruption. I don't think everyone in my family was involved in deep darkness, but many of them definitely kept company with and held titles alongside many others. And so really that's only important just to kind of understand stuff that I inherited as far as generational curses and what kind of set me up to be connected to things that I wouldn't really have a firm understanding until many years later in my life. And I got involved with some of these unsavory characters from a very young age, via my dad, who's now deceased, and a lot of the people that he commingled with. And basically, we're just here to kind of walk through what happened. And, for anyone who's experienced any type of satanic or sexual ritual abuse, anyone who has been afflicted by demons and, curses that we may have brought upon ourselves, generational curses, strongholds, all those types of things, witchcraft, magic, etc. We're just kind of here to talk about it and expose some of it. And my goal is really just to remove the element of fear, because fear is kind of what they rely on. And, we're told not to fear. And I think sometimes it's really hard not to fear, because all of this stuff is really scary when you first wrap your head around it, that it's really real. And there's powers and principalities and demons and beings doing things and affecting things, and whether inhabiting people or just tormenting them, that it freaks people out, and naturally so. But this is all about just understanding who our God is and the power we have through our Messiah and what his plan is, and trying to just expose the darkness and, just be a testimony to Christ and his power to redeem.
And you're right on that. And I want to bring this up too, before we go any further too. Hang on a second. Whoops, I messed up. I'm sorry. Yeah, so spiritual warfare, guys, that's very important to know. And the reason with spiritual warfare simply means you're wrestling not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers of darkness. So let me actually go to the verse here for you, because this is very important. You need to know before we go any further too. And most of you in the chat room already know this. So if you go to Ephesians chapter 6, go down and where is it? Messed up here. So I'll put on verse 12, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." And yeah, we have wars and stuff against humans, absolutely. And things happen, struggles, whatever. But the real focus, the real enemy is spiritual. So it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And last week we explained what the principalities were, and what all these kind of demonic activities were. So if you want to know that more about that, please tune into last week's show where we talked about this. And so this is where we are now, and it instructs us to put on the whole armor of God, plain and simple. You know what I mean? And go to Ephesians chapter 6 and really meditate on this verse of this whole chapter and understand, because this is basic spiritual warfare 101 right here. Ephesians chapter 6. And the reason why we do this stuff for, guys, because Ephesians chapter 5 tells us to know our enemy and expose them, plain and simple. And that's what we do here, exposing the deeds of evil. That's one of our show slogans as well. So Emileigh here, she's a SRA survivor as well. She's been, unfortunately, into the stuff. And yes, she's not going to cover details like nasty stuff, of course, but she's going to lay a lot of stuff out, and it could be very sensitive to a lot of people. But you know what? As adults, especially in the faith, we need to accept, even though how cruel it might sound, how whatever it might sound to you, Jesus himself, Lord and Savior, Jesus, Yeshua Messiah, didn't hold back himself. He told you exactly how it is, plain and simple. And we need to understand that. And as Christians, whatever, we need to mature in that kind of understanding. Not be self-placated like the dispensationalism, the prosperity gospel they preach on the Joel Osteen and all them. That's all garbage. This is real stuff here. So, Emileigh, so now we talked about the occult and all kinds of sources and all that. So let's start from day one. And let's start from when you were a kid and just go through the steps here. You were a kid and you got introduced to this occultism. And just explain from there how it came about and, what you've been through.
Okay, so I was born September 9th in 1983 on a military base in Mississippi. My dad, who's now deceased, was a really high-ranking officer, and it seemed like from the very beginning of my childhood, I spent a lot of time being taken to and fro to these military bases and these hospitals. A lot of the memories there are pretty shady. I only have bits and pieces. I haven't done full regression therapy or anything like that to bring up some of the earlier stuff because I just don't know yet that I need to know all of that stuff. But what I do recall quite vividly is I was always terrified. When I would be handed over to these doctors and taken to these various different rooms, and I was always being poked and prodded, and a lot of darkness, a lot of flashing light imagery and stuff going on. So I don't have a full recollection of some of what was going on there. I know it wasn't a checkup. I know it wasn't like a well baby visit or whatnot. Um, and one of the different things about me is that I'm Rh negative. And for anyone who's ever kind of looked into that, it's a bit of an anomaly and it's an oddity. There's a lot of unsavory stuff that goes along with that bloodline. And I'm also AB negative, which is apparently like the rarest in the world, except for Rh null, which like 7 people have. But it's basically my blood type is less than like 1% of the population. And so Rh negative is like the removal of the D antigen. Now, 93% of the worldwide population has Rh positive blood. That's like normal. But for some reason, there's like 7% of us who lack the D antigen. And because of that, there's some weird things about us. We have, when it comes to trying to have children, we can't actually procreate with most people normally. My body will actually try and kill the baby inside of me if I try and have a baby with a man who is Rh positive. And I experienced that. I had to get a lot of injections before, during, and after pregnancy. And I did some research later, and I was stunned to learn that they call it anti-human globulin. And a lot of it was scientific jargon, but it was pretty off-putting to just question, well, what am I then if I can't even reproduce naturally? And I learned from a very young age that that was particularly important to the government, and that they had, what I would come to know much later, is utilized a lot of those people for special programs when they would enlist them for remote viewing and telepathy and other things like that, because we have for some reason, we have a higher sensitivity to various different frequencies and a susceptibility to be, I don't know if you would say influenced or just connected with quote unquote paranormal stuff. So I don't know what all they were doing to me when I was much younger. I know there was lots of blood taken. There was lots of experiments conducted. That went on as early as I can remember until I was about 7. My dad and mom had divorced when I was pretty young. And so my time was spent between the two of them. And my mom remained single for most of my young part of my childhood. I spent a great deal of time with my dad. I remember when he had moved up into Alaska, there were several different lodges that we kind of frequented, where he had a lot of friends and stuff. And I witnessed a lot of things that my young mind couldn't quite comprehend. But looking back now, it was completely inappropriate. A lot of alcohol and drugs and open sexuality right in front of me, and I was just a little girl, and my brother, who is a little boy. And from the time that I was, I think, 4 or 5, I haven't nailed down the exact age, but I know it was within at least 2 years of when my mom married my stepdad, and they did that when I was 7. So it was between 4 and 5. My mom had gotten herself involved with an unsavory gentleman. He was a Freemason. He was a drug addict and had a lot of other things going on. And she was pretty taken by this guy, um, and I've long since forgiven her. I think she had a lot of her own trauma she was working through, and she did the best she could with what she knew how to do at that time. And we were kind of exposed to some of those aspects. And I was kind of already familiar just from a lot of the activity I had seen around my dad. And the worst part of it is I didn't even think to question it. Like, to me, it would have been normal to see stuff that otherwise would put people in jail for doing around children. And he ended up having a stroke and being sent to one of the Masonic hospitals in the area, where he was put up in this lavish private suite that was just incredible looking back, because, I mean, I've been in the hospital plenty of times, and you rarely ever get your own room, let alone these huge suites that they put you in. And at the end of the hall, there was this like alcove with a window that my brother and I were kind of just dismissed to. And we were there a lot during the week. And there was this male nurse that seemed to know my mom's boyfriend on a personal level, not just patient to nurse level. And he made himself very apparent very quickly and started coming around like every single day. And I was the target for him. And that's when the first truly like picture clear, won't ever forget any single detail of it, sexual abuse started against me. And they're very arrogant. Like I look back and I'm like, how arrogant, like how fearless were you to do that right where you were? And basically he came over, and I think my mom trusted him because, one, he worked in the hospital, and two, her boyfriend knew him, but I don't think she could have possibly have known, what they would do. But anyway, so I became his target, and from pretty much the first day he came around, giving me and my brother those little ice cream cups with the wooden spoon on the top that I can't stand to this day. He gave us ice cream. I mean, we're kids. I was like 4.5, 5 years old. But immediately he pulled me onto his lap, and the groping and the petting started. And by, I think, day 2 or 3, he was fully down my pants. And I would come to figure out later, just by replaying it and, as an adult having a more robust understanding of sexuality, come to realize why he was bouncing me on his lap and stuff. And he was fully, pleasuring himself, digitally penetrating me in the front and the back, and like with an iron grip holding on to me. I didn't have a vocabulary at that point for it. So the best thing that I knew how to do, because that was the first I can fully recall sexual abuse being perpetrated against me in a setting where I wasn't under any kind of, duress or anything else happening. So it's imprinted, it's emblazoned on my mind. I didn't have a vocabulary. So the best thing I knew how to do was just try and stay away from him. And I tried. We were there like every day. I would hide behind, the far end of her boyfriend's hospital room. There was an empty bed on the far end. And I, as soon as I saw that man, his name was Paul, I would hide, and I didn't want to come out. I locked myself in the bathroom that was inside the hospital room a few times. And this actually enraged my mom. She was very angry with me. She thought I was being very rude and bratty, and she put all her trust in this man. And I think partially too because she wanted, her private time, because I came to learn later that many of the times we were locked out, and we were locked out. Like we couldn't get back into the hospital room. She would lock the door. So we were stuck out there for hours at a time. And it was in this alcove that was around the corner from the nearest nurse's station that was down the hall. So there was nobody like in this particular area of the wing except me and my brother. And, he's only 18 months older than me. So, she just got enraged and would just usher me back out. And so this went on for a span of several months. It got progressively worse.
Wow.
I remember him taking me into a bathroom and trying to actually full on have sex with me, except I made too much noise and that was aborted. And that was kind of the first breaking of my innocence. And I didn't understand at the time that he had been picked to do that because the opportune time arose. And any time other than that, my mom wouldn't leave us alone with her boyfriend. She was always around. He never had an opportunity to, take us to the lodge or have anything like that happen.
Yeah.
And so I would learn later that that was actually kind of orchestrated that way, with his room being situated, because he didn't start in that room. They moved him up to that room, and I obviously didn't know any of this. But so that was the first point at which the innocence was kind of shattered.
Did your mother? Did your mom know what was going on?
I don't know if she just chose to ignore it, or if
Yeah.
because I feel like, wouldn't you have an intuition if your child was
Yeah.
panicking, seeing this guy every day running, hiding behind a bed, locking themselves in a bathroom? That's not normal behavior. But I think she was under her own kind of infatuation or spells by this guy, because she was actually, when she would lock us out of the room for a few hours, they would have sex and other stuff would go on in that
Yeah.
room. So I don't even know that she was really concerned. I think she falsely put her trust in this man because he knew her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was like, no, send them with him. They'll be fine. And then he kept all her attention on him. And the guy would be gone before my mom ever came out. He would do what he wanted to me, and he would whisper in my ear and just repeat phrases over and over again. One of them was, "It's a small world," which I later then... I can get into later, but that was actually part of the programming for the Disney stuff. But anyways, so I don't think she consciously knew. I did tell her, I tried very hard to tell her when I was 10, because I had already been subjected to a few other incidences that I would consider more of a ritual, where I was stripped down and I was shamed, and I was violated in front of many other people. But she didn't believe me at the time, and if she did believe me, I don't know what possessed her to not do anything about it. But she never called the police. She never made a report. She never followed up with the hospital to, sue that man or bring charges or anything. And I felt so alone, and I felt like, okay, well, if this isn't a big deal to my mom, am I just crazy? And I only learned kind of the vocabulary for a lot of what was being done to me because I went through sex ed in school. They were teaching it in 5th grade, and that was the first time I had kind of heard the words penis and vagina and sex and condom and this and that. I didn't know what they were. I was never treated like someone who was part of the conversation.
So was it because of, the conditioning, was it a mentality that this is supposed to be normal or something?
Yeah, 100%. I was conditioned to just basically go along with it. I wouldn't have known to question it had it not been for sex ed in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, I had never thought it was abnormal to have those kinds of things happening. I became hypersexualized, and I have a human body, so they were able to stimulate it. So unfortunately, I didn't always associate pain and terror. It was a balancing act. They would terrify me, but then reward me, but then terrify me and then reassure. And I think that was part of the breaking and the dissociating, because I had to, in those moments of terror, dissociate myself from the fear and the pain. And they would use a lot of imagery, stuff like that. So what really kind of changed the game as far as their immediate physical access to me was when my dad got stationed. He got moved to Alaska, and so we didn't go as often to see him. And so there was periods of time that went by where I kind of felt normal, but I realized I wasn't, because it was looking back, I was hypersexualized. I'd be in the pool with my cousins or whatever, and be suggesting sexual things to them, whether it be massaging their buttocks or showing each other our bodies or touching them. I ended up doing like some lesbian acts and stuff with another one of my cousins when we were both very young. And to me now, looking back, like, that's just awful, because they were innocent. But that's what anyone who's been through this, the ultimate goal is not just to break you and hurt you and use you, but it's the added bonus of a domino effect. Yeah. Because you're going to go out there, and when you're young and you don't know any different, you're going to innocently perpetrate it on other people, which is going to hypersexualize them and expose them to things. But when you're older, if you don't get healed of that, that's how you see like pedophiles and child rapists and people like that.
I got a question. Well, you are not. You don't have to answer this, and I don't blame if you don't. But your life now, you're an adult, obviously, whatever. Now, you've been involved with relationships and all that. How does this affect your intimate life? I mean, don't mean it, if it's too personal. Please feel free not to answer it. I mean, I'm just asking, how does this affect you? With just say, you get involved with a relationship with a guy, and you guys are getting close, get intimate. How does that affect you?
Yeah, well, so pretty much every aspect of it. I was a complete whore, and I didn't understand what that was until I actually came to know Jesus. And gosh, the conviction from the Holy Spirit sometimes can just break you. It's sweet. Oh, it's blessed. But it was hard going through a lot of this cleansing with him, because, when you hate yourself and it's beyond just hating what was done to you, it's hating yourself for everything you did too. It's really, really hard. Like there's no other way I could have gotten through it without the Holy Spirit. I mean, because as blunt as he was, and as much as was replayed back to me, things I had long since forgotten that he was calling to account, it could break you. I mean, you can't battle that kind of darkness by yourself, but it affected everything. I can fast forward a little bit to when we were in Southern California. I frequented Disneyland a lot, and I had known that there were people I recognized. There was people I recognized that didn't interact with me, but it was always weird because I saw them in my neighborhood. I saw them whenever I was going to Disneyland, and I went to Disneyland a lot. I can't tell you why, other than I needed to be there, and every time I was there, I usually went with the older I got, I went with a few friends, and I would go missing for like 3 hours. And they would ask me, where have you been? Like, my name would be paged on the loudspeaker. They'd be panicking. And I had no idea. I still, to this day, I have no idea. I don't have an answer for that. I would love to. I can speculate from research I've done, from things I've put together. But I was always at Disneyland. I was like, I had to be there. And whenever I would go onto the It's a Small World ride, just rage would fill me. Rage, like I wanted to kill someone, and I didn't know why. And when I would go to various other parts, I would be like, I don't even know why I wanted to be there, because I literally felt so crazy while I was there. It's like being in different parts of the park or hearing different songs playing or this or that would trigger different parts of my personality. I would be going from like feeling psychotic, like I wanted to hurt somebody, to I wanted to have sex with the next person who happened to touch me. And it's enough to kind of make you feel like I am psychotic. like, what is going on? And I just wanted to be a teenager. I just wanted, to do things and hang out with people and be normal. And I couldn't because all the while, it started when I was about 8. I started having supernatural things happening to me. I started having, I don't know if you want to call them dreams or whatnot. I know that for as much as I understand and as much as I experienced, they were not dreams. I can delineate between a dream and whatever this was, whether it was interdimensional travel, astral traveling. I don't have the perfect term for it, but I was outside of my body and I was not having a dream. I was very well aware of the fact that it was not a dream. And I literally had handlers in the spirit form. And I think this came through obviously demonic attachments and a lot of witchcraft that was done against me. But the weirdest thing is that initially I thought they were good. I thought they were, friends. And there was one in particular, I never got to see his or its face. He always stayed right to the back of my right shoulder. His presence was unmistakable, though, but he never let me look directly on him. And he was like my main handler. And the things that would happen when I would be forced into these projections or astral travels or interdimensional travel was at first kind of cool. They taught me, I say they because at different points there was others, but mainly initially there was one that I was anchored to. He taught me a lot of different things, how to manipulate energy, how to manipulate frequencies, and, silly little things that a little child would like how to breathe underwater and how to fly and all this other stuff. And so I felt very kind of like, oh, well, this is okay. Like, you don't scare me. But then I recall the travel going into areas where it felt more like I was being shown things I shouldn't see. I remember distinctly being shown multiple times a lot of covens of witches and active ceremonies and things that were taking place. Everything from cannibalism to just incantations to sacrifices. And it was traumatizing. And I used to get really confused because he would show me these things. And a few times, these witches, like, they actually looked at me like they perceived I was there or saw me or something, and I was horrified because then he would kind of laugh and be like, well, now there's another, they're gonna come and get you, there's another spell on you. And as a child I was just like, what do you mean? Like, no, I don't want them. Like, I was scared, but it was almost became like a game to him. And then as it progressed, and I didn't really want to participate anymore, I would get kind of punished in the physical. A lot of things would just fly off the shelves, hit me. I would hear a lot of voices. I would just be tormented in the physical, basically. And so as that progressed, I ended up being shown a lot of the things that like were done to me when I was younger. And I just remember him laughing, and telling me how much I liked it. And I mean, just evil, evil stuff. And I didn't want to have any part of it. And I started to get feeling like, you're not my friend. Like, you're not my helper. You're not doing anything good for me. You're hurting me. You're scaring me. And when I started to resist because I just didn't want to participate, that's when the game really changed. And it started to feel more like an episode of Hunger Games, to where I was the prey, and he was always putting me in situations where other beings were trying to capture me, to get me. And he didn't let them, but at the same time, he took great joy in the fact that I was terrified.
The beings, could you describe them a little bit?
So initially, I wasn't able to really see them clearly. They were like really fragmented. And I mean, if I had to try and like pick something that I thought would kind of like maybe somehow do it justice, it'd be like a really out of focus kind of wiggly version of like that Smeagol guy. that on Lord of the Rings, like he's all like bent over the my precious guy. Like that one freaks me out. He freaks me out. Um, but they were just nasty, and they kind of talked like that, just very whispery, nasty. And I didn't get to see them clearly at first. It was always it felt kind of like, like training or boot camp. I didn't know what it was, but I didn't have an option. I was going to participate, and I had to react. I reacted out of fear, just self-preservation at that point, going along with it. And when it got to the point where I in the physical at that point was then starting to listen to these beings and do what they were saying, because I didn't want the torment and the terror in my physical realm with things, hurting me and cutting me and leaving bruises on me and scratching me, biting me, because I was being covered in bruises and wounds and things that I was not inflicting on myself. And things are flying all over my room. I mean, real like poltergeisty stuff. I didn't want any of that. So then I started going into, I was told to tap into the ancient knowledge of my bloodline. And that didn't make any sense to me, but they led me to Druidism and witchcraft, which I started getting involved in just to kind of comply, like, okay, fine, I'll do these little spells. I'll go get the stupid candles. I'll get the fabric, and I'll get this and that. And what they were doing basically was using me as a conduit to try and do things against other people. And a lot of it was perverted. And they, told me things like, oh, well, you just need someone to love you. You just need someone to love you. We're here to help you find love and healing and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you're not. You've been terrifying me. And then I was told it's because I was being disobedient and it would all be okay if I just would go along. So I started practicing in this witchcraft and I didn't really believe in it. I didn't really know what I was doing, but they kept feeding me the knowledge and the information. And before I knew it, I was pretty adept into a lot of spells and this was before the internet. Like I couldn't have just Googled anything up, Internet was very new. I think we had like a few stores online and like some chat rooms.
Yeah, because when I got involved years ago, it was before internet, definitely. And I used to go to the libraries or bookstores and get the books. And, and stupidly enough, I should say, I would copy these symbols down. And my brother, too. Well, he read them on the wall and all that, not knowing what they would do or anything like that. And, the old school way. I mean, you go get books and all that. And, which the books itself, I think, is a little more dangerous. But, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I had gone to the library a few times, and it's so crazy because, I didn't drive or anything. I don't know how my parents let me just leave and go, across the city by myself. I would have panicked if my kids tried to do that. But, I mean, I was getting later when I needed to, have visual images for things. I was learning rune magic. I was learning bone magic, tea leaves, palm reading, all kinds of stuff. I was able to, they started teaching me telepathy, which really freaked me out because I had never thought any of that stuff was really real. That just wasn't in my paradigm of reality at that point. And I started having premonitions. I could finish people's sentences, not just the last word or two, but I could tell them what they were about to say. And that allowed me to kind of manipulate situations. And it was really odd. And I don't know all the mechanics behind it beyond just what I've come to understand through quantum physics and frequency manipulation. And I think also it's probably part of why in scripture we have to be so careful with our words and what we see, what we hear, what we speak. And there's plenty of studies done with frequencies when it comes to water memory and what they do with the sound resonance and sand and the different patterns that come out.
The premonition thing, right? I had tons of those. And I would finish people's sentence right out of my mouth. For instance, this guy I was at work, right? And I just met him at work, and he goes, "I used to live in work. West Warwick, Rhode Island. I forgot the name of the street was. And just right on my mouth, McNiff Street." And he looked at me like, "What? You know, how the hell did you know that? You know what I mean? And the numbers too. The numbers are a big one. So you just like randomly, it wasn't a preemptive thought. Just randomly banged in your head, boom, a number, and people like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like shocks the hell out of them. You know what I mean? And names too. Names are people come out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere. And look at you, talk to you about a problem that nobody else knows about, then they're gone. You know what I mean? And especially these premonitions, like one night I couldn't sleep. I think it was in junior high or something, and I couldn't sleep. My stepfather at the time, he died. He's like, I was just pulling this to stay awake, not go to bed. But I had vision fire in my head, and I couldn't sleep. It was bad. I told my mother. Now my history, my mother, her aunts were, great aunts were all into witchcraft from Salem. So we had this in, generational curses, and she had major premonitions and all that stuff. And I seen this. She took it serious. And sure enough, my stepfather took the garbage out. And I guess the guy upstairs at the time, he put a bunch of garbage against the house instead of in the barrels. So he comes running in the house and said the trash is on fire. And if he didn't go out there, a house would have caught on fire. And after that, they took care of the problem. After that, that uneasiness, because my ears used to get boiling red hot. And that's when I felt something evil and something wrong, or I get flashes on my head of what's going on, and sometimes it can make things move. It wasn't controllable. Like in other words, I'm sitting on the can, okay, when I'm just staring at the bike, and I'm like, just looking at the reflector on the tire. I'm like, that thing's stupid. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it just rips off by itself, and or the sink comes on because I'm laying in the tub, and I'm like, I'm thirsty, I need some water, and then the faucet in the sink would spur on, just random things. Or I walk by the TV, like out of the room, and I'm like, in my head, I want to throw that cup away, the plastic cup. And I walk by, and all of a sudden it goes flying off the TV, and stuff like that. Or the fan in the window, and it literally comes flying out of the window. I'm like, I'm freezing, what the heck's he's got this fan going on, in my head as I'm talking to my brother, and boom, the fan comes flying out of the window. Just stuff like that. And I know it's a lot of similar stuff you experience as well, because I guess in this spiritual way, the witchcraft and all that, and especially when you start dabbling in it, that's when all kinds of crazy stuff stops happening. So when you're talking this, especially with these premonitions, and I'm like, wow, that's the same stuff that I've experienced myself.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be simple things. I'll never forget when my best friend at the time, who totally knew what I was doing, and then she was just kind of, okay, you're a witch, so what? Just don't hurt me. But I remember she called me one day, and she wanted to tell me what she had gotten her prom dress. And I was like, oh, I already know what it looks like. And she's like, no, you don't. And I sit there and I just described the whole thing to her. And she was like, I can't talk to you right now. Like, it freaked her out, because I told her like the brand name of it, every detail of it, and she lived like blocks and blocks away from me. And again, we didn't have like video chat or anything like that. So it was things like that I just kind of wrote off and then came to accept as like, okay, I can do this. Like, this is just part of who I am, I guess. And they really had a way of numbing you into it. This isn't something I took on, going, I want to be the most powerful witch, or I want to hurt people, or I want to, at first I didn't know this stuff was evil and bad. I didn't know what I was dealing with. My handlers, because I had largely by that point been handed over from my human handlers who had initially done the fragmenting and the fracturing, to what I call my demonic handlers. They were definitely not human. They took the form of humans at times. That's terrifying. They came right into my bedroom, stood by my bedside. That was one night I'll never forget. But largely, it was a lot of interdimensional teaching and tormenting and stuff that was going on. And so once I got kind of into the witchcraft and I was doing what they had asked, it got kind of intoxicating, because I realized, well, wait a second, this stuff is real. Oh, maybe you were telling me the truth and you just had to kind of give me like tough love or whatever, so I would actually obey you and do it. And they had been telling me, you come from a long line of Celtic witches, and you need to remanifest this stuff. The line's been dormant, but you have the bloodline. And I'm assuming they meant because of the blue blood, the Rh negative blood that I have. So moving forward, a lot of those powers, so to speak, started really amplifying. And, telekinesis, being able to move things, all of that was happening. I will say now, as a full believer in Jesus Christ, that I don't think I was ever actually moving those things myself. I don't know. I think demons were moving them.
Well,
But
Doc Marquise, former, I don't know if you remember Doc Marquise, former member of the Illuminati. He's been on my show, been on with Nice TV and all that, and he became a very close personal friend of mine. This guy was into, you name it. I mean, like the darkest orders and everything else. And he told me the secret of magic. He goes, Dan, I'm going to tell you the secret of magic. And I'm like, what's that? He goes, there is no magic. He goes, the thing is, when because I told my experiences too, and he said it's not you doing it. It's like these demons will convince you have powers. You can see into the future. You can move things with your mind. You have premonitions. He goes, it's not coming from you. Because they got control of your mind. And so basically, if you vision, something to levitate off the room, whatever the case, it's them putting those thoughts in your head, and it's not you individually. And they do that to entice you to get more powers. And at the time when I was doing, is that telekinesis when you move stuff in your mind?
Yeah.
I wanted to do more. I mean, I had dreams of doing this, and I wanted to be able to just move anything and float myself, just like, do all this stuff. And so he explained to me, he goes, the secret of magic, there's no such thing as magic. It's demons doing these things for you to make you think you have these things. Like these good people out there. There's good people out there who do fortune telling, which is wrong, but they're, generally they're good people, but they're misled to think that they're doing, in some covenants, right? I ran into some witchcraft covenants like Wiccans and all that. They told me like, oh, no, we're good people. We actually help God. We fight demons. And I'm like, thinking to myself, how do you use evil to fight evil? How does that work out for you?
Well, because they fell for the lie. They fell for the lie that there's white and black magic. I mean, but it's just, I fell for that too. I wouldn't have gone out and said like, oh, I practice black magic, or I'm a dark witch, or I'm a dark druid, I'm all about hurting. I would have never said that. And I would have thought, I was very adept at dealing with, a lot of the elemental stuff, which I know now they were manipulating. But I mean, I think it's because, one, I know there was a time where I was possessed, and I had several of them actually inhabiting me, but there was also a lot of matter manipulation going on with frequencies and energy exchanges that I didn't have any awareness of until I actually started studying the higher sciences and trying to figure out, God, we are fearfully and wonderfully made, but I also know that you have higher wisdoms, and explain this to me. And he started kind of showing me a lot of the stuff that is behind all of their sacred geometry. It's all real stuff. And his creation, his patterns of things, there's nothing evil about that. It's what they do with them and how they pervert their power throughout them and manipulate people and have them inflict this cycle of just idolatry and creation worship and harming one another and just the destruction of innocence and violence and just utter perversion. It's what they do within that framework that I really have a problem against. But yeah, I mean, I would go by street lights and they would just shut off. I mean, and it really was freaky because like as long as I stayed there, if I was under a stoplight, it would be off, the street lights or whatnot. And then I would drive by and I'd look in my rearview mirror and it would flicker back on, and it would happen like a domino effect down the road and things like that. I remember telling you even, my stepdad, I refer to him as my dad because he's really the only one who raised me as a good man. He's a good, godly man. He's such a godsend in my life. But my stepdad, he is a computer person. He's just very like way up there in the computer world. And he had this like multi-machine, like computer scanner, faxer, whatever, all of that. And he couldn't fix it. Something had happened. He couldn't fix it, whatever. And he had it in the garage, and I was living with them at the time, and I was an adult by now. Still practicing this stuff, even though I thought I knew a little bit more about who Jesus was. But at that point, he was just like I thought he condoned it. I didn't know any different. I was raised in dispensationalism. I thought, oh, all I have to do is believe in him. Well, yeah, I believe in him. I know he's real, just like my handlers know he's real. I'm not going to argue that. And I was told, like, oh, he died for you, so everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, perfect. Like, I didn't have to do anything. And that's what I was saying. It's horrible. It's wrong. That's a lie. But that's what I had been taught. That's what I had been raised up into, is everything's okay if you just acknowledge him. And I didn't know that I belonged to him. I didn't know that he had a chess game he was playing with my life, and that I was going to end up on his team and come to understand all of this. He knew that. I had no idea. So at that point, I still was, I had gone through many sexual partners. You asked me how it affected that. Basically, I was extraordinarily promiscuous. There wasn't anything I wouldn't do because there was really nothing that hadn't been done to me. And that led to a lot of things that are just really hard to look back on and accept, that because now when I look back, it's like, who is that person? And intellectually, I know it's me, but there's no semblance. Like, I don't look back on myself and go, oh yeah, that's me. It literally looks like I'm looking at someone else or
Well,
talking about someone else.
so is it just a loved one? Is it special? I mean, like, because when you have sex with somebody, it's supposed to be special and the feelings and not. Is it like that?
Oh, yeah, I was really unhealthy. I would actually form really intense bonds with people to the point where I ended up doing spells against them if they were freaked out by me or tried to leave or anything like that, because all my attachments were twisted and broken. And I think part of me just became so needy to have someone not hurt me, not leave, not abandon, not send me to someone else so they could do the same thing over, that I'd get really possessive. And I didn't know how to be healthy about it. It was kind of like, no, you said you wanted to be with me or you like me, so you're you're stuck with me. It was that kind of mentality. And I didn't ever, I don't think I ever physically hurt them or anything, but um yeah, I was very unhealthy, very manipulative emotionally, and I wouldn't have looked at it like that, because to me, it was so intense. Like, I would bond with them so intensely that it was like my world coming apart if they didn't want me just as much. It was bizarre looking back. It's like I didn't exist unless I belonged to someone. And I think that was part of the programming too, is just a lot of the sex programming I went through was for submission. And that makes me angry because I'm submissive just naturally, and I think most women want to be to some degree. They want to be in that healthy relationship like that God stipulates, and really have a healthy, God-fearing, strong husband over them. Because I don't think, and I can't speak for all women, but I don't think most of us who are at least true believers, I don't think we want to be the ones out there trying to face the world and protect everyone and, take care of all the things. I think we would much rather be the nurturers and the supporters and raise the children and take care of the home and find joy in that, and knowing that we don't have to call all the shots. So a lot of that natural desire was just twisted and perverted, and it was made to where I would submit to men in ways that made BDSM and all the kinks look like child's play. Really, some awful stuff was done to me in some of those relationships and I wouldn't leave. I just accepted it as if that was how it was supposed to be. And usually, they would get bored of me or whatnot, and then I would fall to pieces, because then I didn't have an owner at that point. I wasn't being of sexual use, and so I would go into this downward spiral of needing to have sex with everyone. And that is that's just completely destructive. I had a lot of memories that were still haunting me in my early childhood, or not my early childhood, of my early childhood, in my later teen years and early 20s. And that led me to really indulging in marijuana and alcohol and other drugs like that. I got involved with an MMA fighter and was in that ring of influence. So there was a lot of cocaine everywhere, a lot of parties. Uh, Oddly enough, a lot of witchcraft and a lot of superstition and rituals going on in the fighting world that I
I
had
believe it.
no idea about. That's actually quite terrifying. Because that just kind of re-triggered me at that point, because I had by that point, it was like my late 20s, and I had largely distanced myself from the actual practicing of a lot of magic. I had started to kind of feel just dirty about it, and I had been through a few other experiences before that had really just made me want to cut ties with these handlers because, like I said, they manifested into my room. The only reason I believe they didn't hurt me that night, because that was when I was really, really pulling back. I had already been subjected to watching, literally been forced to watch people be ripped to shreds by these like shape-shifting wolf things. I don't even want to call them a werewolf because that seems so like made up or, a silly, benign term. But I mean, I had already been subjected to things that just, it doesn't profit people to know about. And there was one instance where I was taken to this room, this huge room. It reminded me of like this Roman amphitheater or something, like a stadium, or, where there was a whole bunch of balconies. Oh, here's a good example. Have you ever seen Star Wars? And they have like the Senate, the Galactic Senate or whatever.
Yep.
Okay, so it looked like that, only more Romanesque. And I was literally handed over by my handler to, I guess it was like, I don't know what to call him, a king or whatever their titles were, just a grotesque being. I mean, nasty, just awful, ugly, wormish, fat, like Jabba the Hutt, but 10 times worse looking being. And I was handed over like a prize. And the most horrible thing is every other being there knew who I was. And they were all cheering as I was like bent over the balcony and just repeatedly raped by these beings, like in a train. And then I was like, my arms were broken and it was awful. It was horrible, horrible. And I had already gotten to the point where there was nothing good or redeemable or even passable as peaceful or helpful about this anymore, because I was fighting it. And every time I would fight it, the trauma, the terror, the attacks would get worse, I guess, just to like scare me back into complying. But by the same token, I was also being exposed to a little bit more of the scripture. My mom was in a way healthier place in her life. She had remarried. They had had another child. I was hyper protective over my little sister to the point where I think it really bothered my parents. And so they were like trying to go to church. And so I was getting exposed to various different things, and I was starting to feel just kind of like, you're not helping me. Like, you're making this worse. I don't know what you are. I tried to talk to my parents about it. They were like, stop, that's ridiculous. Stop watching scary movies, or stop, dabbling in witchcraft. Don't touch that stuff. But they didn't really engage with me. There wasn't any instruction. There wasn't anything to like, it just felt like when I was 10 all over again, telling her what was going on by the humans and the beings that I was, watching do all these things with the humans. And it was, when I told her about what happened at the hospital, and for months when he had just worked to like shatter my mind and use my body, and it was like, oh, okay. And then nothing was done. So I, at that point, I was kind of like making my own decisions and deciding, well, if I'm on my own, if this is just my battle to fight by myself, and no one is going to stop this, then I'm going to stop it. And one night, it was probably about, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was always a night owl. I didn't like sleeping. They would pull me out of my consciousness if I was awake sometimes, but it always happened at night. It always happened at night when I was the most vulnerable. So I usually was up most of the nights all throughout my teenage years. But this particular night, I was tired and I had been feeling kind of pretty good. I hadn't really been bothered in like a few days, and I don't know, I was just feeling confident. And I had thrown away a lot of like the witchcraft tools, and I had burnt a lot of things. I was really being defiant and just trying to get a lot of this stuff out of like my room, and I wouldn't practice it. I wasn't doing any spells or incantations. And so I was feeling like confident. And it was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and everyone was asleep. They had been for hours. The house was silent. And my room was pretty large, and I had like a big four-poster bed. And I was laying on my left side facing my window, which was several feet away from me, that had like a window seat and everything. So my door was actually to my back, and there was like a little hallway that led to my door. And we had the French handled doors. So you could always hear the little click, click. I don't know if anyone has those door handles. It just makes a little like click when you open it. And I had been just about to go to sleep. Everything was quiet. I was feeling super peaceful. I didn't even need my TV on or anything. And I hear just the soft click, click of my door. And then we had pretty thick carpet, so I could hear the door drag across the carpet. And I was like, my eyes, like I was very awake at that point. At first, I didn't panic because my little sister, who was like 5 at the time, every now and then she wanted to come sleep in my bed. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it's her. But when whoever it was, they walked around the foot of my bed, and I could hear the heavy footfalls across the carpet, the carpet crunching beneath the weight of their feet. And I was like, that's not my little sister. And she would have crawled in right behind me. And so at that point, I was just like, what is going on? And I had my eyes closed, and I was laying on my left side. And I just remember just praying to Jesus, like first and foremost, like that is what came to mind is, Jesus, I need you. Like, this isn't a drill, and
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know how to call on him. I hadn't really ever done that in any sincere way. I was just literally in my head. I was just like, Jesus, like this is real. Come on. Like, I know you see what's going on. Like, okay, now's the time to show up. And I just remember that my body just being flooded with this warmth. And I heard the smallest, but not small, like little kid or anything. It was just very confident and very gentle and firm. And it just said, don't open your eyes. I'm here, but don't open your eyes. And I was like, well, what do you mean don't open my eyes? And I was used to hearing voices, so that was nothing new to me. Like, I wasn't in the least bit shocked that I had heard a tangible voice. So at that point, I was just like, what do you mean don't open my eyes? Like, there's someone in my room. Like, are they going to kill me? And the slow, heavy steps, like this felt like it took forever because I was having this panicked conversation with Christ at this time. And it was probably a span of like 10 seconds for this being to move around the foot of my bed and then come to stand directly.
Yeah, and that 10 seconds is a lifetime.
Oh my goodness. It was awful. It was awful because all I remember him telling me is he told me in just the most confident, calm, loving voice. He was like, don't open your eyes. I don't need you looking upon this. Don't move. And I remember it's almost like, I don't want to say he took control of my body because I don't think that's what happened. I think he helped me and impressed upon me the importance of remaining relaxed and like literally helped me control my breathing. So my breathing appeared normal. I wasn't hyperventilating. I wanted to hyperventilate. Inside, I was a hot mess. But on the outside, my heartbeat stayed steady. My breaths, like it would have just looked like I was sleeping. My muscles weren't tensed up or whatever. And he told me, just don't look, just breathe with me. And I was like, oh, what is this? What is this? Well, I'm stubborn. And so my eyes were like, I was looking just through the slit of my eyelashes, right? And he was scolding me. He's like, please don't look. And so I didn't go beyond that. I didn't actually like open my eyes and look because I was terrified. At first it was like a human that was going to stab me or something. And but I saw just through the slit of my eyelashes. The window to my bedroom was in front of me, and so the amber light of the street light was coming through my blinds enough to where there was just kind of like an ambient glow, a nighttime glow in my room. This thing was so huge. I mean, my son is 6'4", 300 pounds. This thing would have made my son look like a middle schooler. It was so big and so solid. Like, it wasn't some apparition that I could see through. It was, I mean, and I had a high bed. I mean, if I were standing, the top of my mattress came to like my hip. It was one of those big 4-poster beds. So I had a very tall bed. And where I was laying, my head was below this thing's crotch. I mean, probably around like their lower thigh, right above their knee. And I was just like, what is that? Like,
and that describes the Nephilim spirit, which is a demon. That's exactly, they were huge, monstrous, hideous, and everything else. And
it was huge. And I remember it reaching out, and I mean, I only knew it was reaching because I felt it on top of my sheet. I had my sheet on top of my body, and I didn't have like my heavy comfort or anything on. It was the summertime. I just pulled up my sheet. And I physically felt the weight of this thing's appendage, its hand or whatever, cover like the whole side of my rib cage and my hip. So if it was its hand, it was huge. And it like started to touch me, and then it pulled its hand back super fast. And it stood there, and this like sound, this rumbling, just like angry, it was very low, like almost like a very low vibrational growl is all I know how to call it. I mean, it wasn't like, a cat growling or something like that, or a dog growling, but it was just like a very, very low, ominous, just like rumble that was just kind of vibrating off of it. And it stood there for what felt like ever, but it couldn't have been more than 5 or 10 seconds, and I could feel it just looking at me, like wanting to literally like seize me, like pick me up. And I could feel like it was angry, and I realized at that point, Jesus was like, he can't touch you, just do not open your eyes. And at that point, I didn't need any more convincing. I was like, nope, we're good. I'm not going to look. Like, you're with me. Don't leave me, Jesus, don't leave me. And I remember him just telling me, just breathe normal. Just stay relaxed. Don't open your eyes. And this thing took a step back. And again, like I could hear, like it was heavy footsteps. Like I could hear it step back. And then it turned and it walked around the foot of my bed very slowly, paused. It's weird. Oh, what is that? Yeah, that's. I don't like looking at those because like they're so real that I don't think people realize it's not just artwork. But yeah, it like stood at the foot of my bed for a second, almost like in contempt. Like it was just, it knew that it was leaving, but like just like that one look back, like it was just angry, and it walked all the way out in my room, and then it closed the door behind itself. And I waited maybe like 5 seconds until I heard Christ say, okay. And I know it was Jesus. Like you can't fool me at this point because I had heard all kinds of demons. I knew exactly who it was. When I called on Jesus, he was there, and that thing couldn't take me. And no one will ever convince me otherwise. And I heard him say, okay. And I flew out of my bed. I flew so fast because I didn't know if it would close the door and was like in the room still or what. I flew out of my bed. I, flipped around and like pressed myself to the wall. And I was like, at that point, I was like, my heart was going 100 miles an hour and my chest was heaving. I was like, what just happened? Like that was more than I've ever had. Like I've seen, visages of them before. I've seen, I know they've thrown things around, but they haven't actually stepped into the corporeal to where it was a physical form to actually like repossess me or take me or whatever. So So that was shaking.
And I'm
me.
sorry, I had my microphone off when I was talking to you. So the people that she was going ill to, she was, going ill to is these pictures here. I was telling her, my mic was muted for you guys out there, but I was telling her there's an actual picture of a demon pressing against this girl. It was laying on the left side, just like she described. And like she was saying, these pictures, these artists, people make these pictures because this is what they've experienced and what they've gone through, and they express it through art. That's why you see a kid who's possessed, he'll draw pictures of dead things, whatever the case. And that's not your kids. And if you got kids out there, do that, guys. Don't go to a psychiatrist or nothing. That's a kid telling you something. There's something spiritually wrong. You know what I mean? And this is people's art that expressing through their art with their experience and what they're seeing. And this is some horrific stuff. And, a lot of it's like what I experienced myself, some of these demons sitting on your chest and everything, by your foot, the foot of your bed and everything. And this is real stuff, guys. And it's not just somebody's art. There's truth to this. So as I'm trying to say, yeah. So I'm sorry, Emileigh, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to let people know what you were oohing about,
Yeah, I didn't realize you had been muted. Yeah, no, they're real. And when it came to things like Incubus and Succubus, those never bothered me because those are much lower level demons. Like, there is a hierarchy. I'm not like an expert demonologist. I can only speak off of what I came to understand by being thrust into those realms and forced around so many of them. But there's absolutely a hierarchy. They're not all buddies with each other. They don't all, there's a lot of different kinds. And so when it comes to like the Incubus and the Succubus, I know I had a succubus spirit. Like there's no doubt about that. Like it was awful. It was awful because I had the ability to seduce like anyone. And that really damaged me later because once you get free of a lot of the spiritual stuff, I think this isn't really stressed enough. You still have to reprogram your humanity. You have to step out of things like pride and ego and arrogance and habits. And it's like reprogramming a computer. Like, it's going to take time. And I don't want I know that Jesus can deliver people of everything on the spot immediately right away. Like, whether it be addictions, possessions, anything else, you can be delivered, all of it removed from you, like, immediately. I know that's happened to people. That's not how it happened for me. I was delivered 100% of the possession and 100% of their access to me as far as yanking me into things that I didn't want to be involved in, which I have pretty much summed up as a lot of the astral travel and the interdimensional torture and torment that I was subjected to. And the worst part of it is I would see things sometimes that would then end up on the news. So I know I wasn't dreaming. I was seeing things happening and it was traumatizing. And I know that I was delivered of that stuff because that hasn't happened for years. Like he cut it off. Like they were no longer able to have access to that part. But when it has come to my own flesh, my own wounds and the things that I've been through, and I mean, that's pretty much the cliff notes, like me just trying to give a cliff notes of kind of different aspects of everything, because it would be like a 10-hour show if we wanted to go through all the details. But I think that kind of sums up a lot of kind of the bigger points. And so when it came to deliverance, it was in 2015. And I went through so many abusive relationships, so many horrible things that happened. I mean, I literally am so incredibly thankful that I never ended up perpetuating some of the stuff that they wanted me to. I know that I was responsible for defiling a lot of people, getting men to do things that maybe they wouldn't otherwise do. turning them on and perverting them to things that are unnatural things the Bible specifically lays out, which is another reason why it was so horrifying to me to actually sit down with God and go through some of this stuff, because I was just like, I've done all of that. Oh my God, like you were talking about me, like you wrote these chapters about me, like especially, when he talks about it's, you're worse than a whore because even they get paid. Like you didn't even get paid. Like, oh, it was awful. And so there's a lot of things that I'm still to this day learning how to forgive myself over, and trying not to bring up things that I know I've repented of and in my mind, or, re-shame myself or feel guilty for them or responsible for them all over. I've prayed over pretty much everyone that I ever had sexual contact with, everyone I ever practiced witchcraft and magic and druidic spells against. I've tried to go through as detailed as I can, and I'm asking him all the time, like, Father, if I've forgotten anything, bring it to my mind, sift me, search me, bring it up to my memory, because I will never forget when he had me face down on the concrete floor, and I was surrendering to him for the first time in 2015, and my whole spirit was so moved that I was sick, I was vomiting, I was sobbing, my body was shaking. I was so overcome by just purging so much, and by the awareness of his presence, I could not lift my face up. I was terrified. That was, he had been the most powerful thing I had ever come against. And I knew with everything in me that he was the one that I belonged to. And so I was literally so broken and pissed off and feeling so disgusted and shamed that I had ever done anything that I had done, or involved other people, or allowed myself to be used in so many ways. Because when you're standing in front of your Father, there's no greater shame than that. Like, what am I going to do? I can't hide anything. He knows everything. And trust me, he brought to mind things even I'd forgotten. He showed me my whole life in like, it felt like a movie on fast forward, where every single frame was perfectly in focus, and I didn't get the opportunity to look away or choose not to remember it. And it was so, like, I was vomiting. It was awful. And I could not get up off the concrete floor. I could not get up. I could not look at him. I was literally prostrate in my own vomit, sobbing, choking on my snot. It was definitely not ladylike. And I remember immediately after, he showed me these things and was like, do you understand now? Do you see what you've been doing? It broke my heart. It shattered me, because I became aware of his love for me, and the fact that he had always been there, always preserving me through, always making sure that these beings didn't go too far or didn't break me too far. Or, there were so many instances that I should have died at the hands of humans, and in the situations that a lot of this witchcraft and stuff put me, so many situations. I should have died or been diseased, or, I could go on just listing off 100 different ways that I should have died that makes no sense other than God.
Amen.
And he showed me all of the times that he had been there telling them, nope, no further. Nope, not this time. You can do that, but nothing more. And then he led me, to a lot of stories in the Bible, and was just opening my eyes of all the examples he had left. He's like, you're not the only one who's ever gone through this. But you need to understand that I was there with you 100% of the time. You just didn't acknowledge me, and you didn't know who I was until now. But now you know. And it was the most humbling, just, I don't have any words for it. I think anyone who's really come in contact with Jesus in that moment of really just that reckoning with him, it's like there are no words. There's nothing more powerful, more beautiful than him. You could never feel more dirty and so ashamed than in that presence when you realize you're God. Like, it's all real. And immediately after he had forced me to kind of take stock of and acknowledge everything, I mean, I was a hot mess. I just felt the most comforting warmth and this beautiful warmth come over me. And immediately I stopped. Like, he just gave me such shalom. Like, I stopped crying, I stopped heaving, I stopped trembling, I stopped gagging. I almost looked comatose. Like, I was just laying there, taking the slowest, deepest breaths, like he was breathing with me again. And then he brought me back to that time when he had been with me in my room, and he's like, do you remember me now? You know, and he brought up other instances where I had known in the moment he was there. I had acknowledged that, or I knew that he was protecting me, but I never had turned to him. I never acknowledged who he was. I never acknowledged that I belonged to him. And it was just this crazy experience to know that he had already known all of this stuff was going to happen. And he had preserved me through all of it. And he was in control of everything they were doing to me. Like, he was the one. Like, they couldn't do anything more than he allowed. And I would have never known that, because I thought, they're going to kill me. Like, I thought they could do whatever they wanted. And by and large, they had a lot of free reign because of a lot of the stuff I was allowing and bringing in. I was giving all kinds of legal footholds, and there was curses I still hadn't known to even break off myself, and contracts that I didn't know how to renounce that had been put on my life. And I just have to tell people, like, I have broken every commandment. I had 3 abortions during all of that. Bestiality was involved. Like, there's nothing that you have done that is so bad or that makes you so dirty that he is not wanting and willing to clean from you. It doesn't matter what other beings have told you, doesn't matter what people have called you, who hasn't believed you, who may have hurt you, what they've done. He will help you forgive them, but you gotta come to him first, because there's so much he wants to restore in you. If it were not for Jesus Christ, I would either be in prison, dead, or crazy in a corner somewhere in a psych ward. There's no other ways about it. And I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect. I will have my sin nature with me until I leave the flesh. But I now know who I serve. And I serve Jesus Christ, who is the only Lord and Master you should ever want in your life. Amen. He is above everything and everybody. They answer to him, believe it or not. They can't do anything without him allowing it. So don't ever fall for the lies that they're going to tell you. You know, they're going to fill you with fear, and they're going to make all kinds of threats against you. You're going to see a lot of humans who, you know, they co-conspire with them. And humans can kill your flesh. They can, if he allows it. But they can't touch your soul as long as it rests in the hands of your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And so I don't fear death anymore. I mean, I still have a lot of things that I don't really go into in great detail, because I don't think it really profits people to hear all of that all the time. But I can tell you right now, there is nothing that you could have done, that you have done, that he's not willing and wanting to take away from you and to heal and to reassure you you're not crazy. You know, you're not an addict forever. You don't have all these mental illnesses they're telling you have. You don't need these different psychotropic medicines that they're putting you on. You don't need another human to give you years and years of therapy to talk about your problems. Come talk to me.
Yeah, this guy Carl we knew lived downstairs from my brother, because he just guy questioned everything. So they end up convincing him that he was like mentally ill, you know what I mean? Literally. So they put him on psychotropics and all that. I got to know him, had a long talk with him. I'm like, no, it's like there was nothing wrong with you in the first place, man. And it's like that's God reaching out to you. You know what I mean? And I witnessed to him and everything. And but I told him, it's like, no, it's not you that's abnormal. It's them, because they're trying to keep you mentally down. That's where it starts, is breaking the mind down, like you said earlier. That's where it starts, is targeting the mind, and it's because it's a war on your mind and your soul.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Your mind to your body, then to your soul. That's where it goes, and or sometimes body, mind, and soul. But yeah, it's ultimately to target the soul, to make you feel insufficient, and that's what they do too. Because all the sexuality and all the stuff that it's going on, you're doing all that, you feel guilty about it, and they want you to feel that way. So you completely rely on them. You know what I mean? These demonic spirits, and you completely rely on them, and you just continue to do it because you feel there's no way out of it. And might just keep going with it. And if I stop doing it, they're going to harass me. Because I ran into instances where people got out of this stuff and they got viciously attacked. Because the thing is, these demons, you're their possession at this point. They don't want to let you go. And you start going on the good path, they're going to do everything in their power to make your life a miserable hell, to bring you back, just as though it calms down or whatever the case. But this is where heavy spiritual warfare comes in play. Like you here, I mean, like you obviously, you know what I'm talking about, and now you're on this right path of righteousness. And
it's been a battle, though.
Yeah.
It's been I'm not going to lie to anybody and tell anybody, they didn't keep coming for me, or I haven't battled.
Oh yeah, please explain that too. That's very important too at this point, because now everybody knows, like, basically you were in literally in bed with these demonic spirits. So now you transition us out of this. You starting to transition out, because you said your mom was reading the Bible and all that, and you called upon Jesus. Now explain the transition now. The part from you go from into this stuff, into this mess. Now I'm coming to the light, and tell us what the enemy was doing to you.
Oh, well, first off, it started with people around me. I had pretty much, and I don't, and this was probably naive of me to ever think that I would have, any of these people remain my friends or whatnot, or they were never really my friends, but they were within my inner circle and members of the coven I was in. But immediately were against me, and just vicious. I mean, saying all kinds of evil things against me, spreading rumors about me. And at that point I was like, well, I've already done enough bad things. Why would you need to make up a rumor? You might as well just spill my business. But they would make up things that were just not true. But I mean, I had been a liar. I had been a thief. I had been, a worker of sorcery. So my word meant nothing to decent, honorable people. I had already been outed by several groups of otherwise innocent people and shunned by them. So, when stuff like this that was made up about me was being circulated specifically with the intent to hurt me, I mean, there was no question. I didn't have a defense at that point. There's no way I could try and defend myself. And how ridiculous would it sound that, oh, all of this other horrible stuff is true, but yeah, that little rumor that hurts my feelings because it's the one thing that's not true. Yeah, believe me on that. So I didn't have a way to defend myself. I lost so many relationships. The man that I had been married to at the time, he was actually an Ashkenazi Jew who was totally wrapped up in Kabbalah and all this stuff. So it didn't bother me at first, but then I paid the price being still connected to it when I started turning away from a lot of this stuff. He manifested in ways that ended up ultimately with restraining orders and arrests being made and charges put against him for assault and battery and other stuff towards me, which I'm now divorced because I actually let him give me a writ of divorce because I still was just not sure whether or not I could file for divorce, but he did give me a writ of divorce, thank God. So I'm free of that now. But during that period, he manifested in ways that were just, I mean, atrocious, and they went straight from my mind. I didn't stop having instances where I definitely know that there was human counterparts being involved in that. I don't want to get too woo-woo into some of the programs that I'm very aware were used against me, because I don't want people to be afraid of a lot of the technology that's out there that the government absolutely uses. Um, and I just know for a fact what some of them were doing against me, because the more I pulled out of it, the more untouchable I was without them making overt moves, which weren't desired, because the covert was the best way to operate. And the more I pulled out of that, and the more I kind of tucked myself away into groups of people where they would be forced to kind of reveal a little too much, that was really irritating. I literally got hit from all sides, from spiritual to humans, all of it, 100%. I had, I don't they're not even UFOs, but I had stuff manifesting right outside my house, trying to terrorize me. And I had people parked on the corner of my street that were there every single night, wouldn't leave. And I would walk outside and walk my dog, and they were just sitting there staring at me. And I knew exactly who they were, but what could I do? I had so many spiritual attacks, so many mental breakdowns, because I realized I was so fragmented that I wasn't even the frequency manipulation that was used against me. What I later learned, it's very real. It does exist. They have frequency weapons and they do deploy them. It can literally change your behavior. It can make you angry. It can make you sexual. It can make you calm. And they use it for crowd control even, which I later learned. It's just insane. The technology you know of that's out on the market or available to you is like decades behind what they have. So like that newest iPhone or that coolest thing you think, you are decades behind the technology that
Oh
they
yeah,
are.
right here too. There's one called ELF, extremely low frequency. I don't know if you all remember the Navy Yard shooter back in 2014. He was actually up here in Rhode Island. He was worked for Raytheon. He was a civilian government defense contractor, and he reported in the police reports, and I actually got the reports, that he was being followed around by two people, and they were shooting like electromagnetic, extremely low frequencies, the stuff he was working on, at him using mind control weapons. And this is on website. I forgot to put on the screen here. This is what they were doing, and this is real stuff, guys. Mind control. And the Navy Yard shooter, he carved ELF into his weapon when he went to he went down to Texas and shot up the Navy base. And the only gun-free Navy base makes no sense. But yeah, and he carved ELF into his rifle. It stood for not L for Santa Claus, but extremely low frequency. You know what I mean? And so this stuff is real. It's all on record too. I mean, you go to Raytheon, the DARPA works with this stuff.
Yeah, DARPA. DARPA is the head honcho of all.
Yeah.
Of them.
And so this is all. I mean, it was the main core that was developed to developed. I'm sorry, is to penetrate submarines. That, what it would do is would send a frequency out to drive everybody in the submarine that's hiding out in the water, everybody in the enemy submarine, mad, and kill themselves and kill others, and then all kinds of crazy stuff. They could manipulate, you control, like everything she was saying. I just wanted show people that you're not out of your mind, because I like to back everything up. You know what I mean? And I just want to point out that this is on record, guys. This is nothing sci-fi. And actually, sci-fi is, nothing compared to the truth, plain and simple. But, this is real stuff, guys.
No, they brag about it. In a lot of the sci-fi movies, they put real technology in there. I mean, that's not fake CGI stuff all the time. Like, they will use real technology and showcase it, because they're not making movies for you. They're making movies to entertain themselves, and that's how they kind of, like Game of Thrones, that entire show. Don't buy the crap that they've fed you. That entire show is glorifying their own Game of Thrones they've played amongst themselves throughout all the generation. Like, it's twisted, but it's all for their entertainment. I think we touched on that before with like Simpsons and a lot of the movies and stuff. Like, it's not because they care about you and want you entertained. They don't give a crap. Like, I'm sorry to be frank, but you're cattle. You are cattle to them. And it's disgusting. But that's why I keep telling people, like, don't feel like you need to have any part of this world. Like, when people start rejecting you, when people don't want to have anything to do with you because he's the Father's revealing to you, like, keep my commands, and you start becoming peculiar, and you're eating clean, and you're turning away from these pagan holidays, and you're casting things away from you. You're closing doors. You're detaching strongholds from you. You're removing legal authority from the devil, from the world, and you're clinging to Jesus Christ. Like, you are going to find yourself in ever growing smaller groups. Like, people aren't going to want it. You start to actually go from like being their best friend or super popular to being disgusting to them. Like they can't even stand to be around you. And it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's not because, you've done anything against them. It's literally the Spirit of God inside of you is detestable to them if they don't also have the same spirit within them. They cannot stand it. And I had to come to that understanding because it's hard. I'm not going to lie, like, we are social beings. We make relationships with people. They matter to us. And when those things start fracturing and you see people treating you horribly when all you're trying to do, even especially among other believers, other Christians, I suffered some of the worst judgment, I think, in my immediate circle from my family, because it was kind of, I remember talking to you last week, after the show we were talking, I was just like, it's sad, but it's kind of hilarious in like a very uh, bitter kind of way, that when I started being led by the Holy Spirit to stop eating these things, like he was teaching me one by one, like, remove this, remove that, now do this, do that. And none of it was legalism. It was literally about learning how to walk in the way that he set forth for us from the beginning. It was all about safeties and precautions and the proper boundaries to have for my body and my children and my house. And I started learning through him. It wasn't a person who taught this to me. I mean, I didn't go to some church. I didn't seek out a pastor. I felt so alone. He really took me through the wilderness for like 10 months. I was by myself, and he was teaching me privately, like, this is what, and I felt crazy because I came from a family that's now obviously, gotten bigger as different cousins and siblings and whatnot got married. And so there's lots more people. But like, I have pastors in my family, in my immediate family, like my aunt's husband and stuff, and my stepdad's mom. I mean, I've never received so much condescension and condemnation from the people that I thought I could trust, even knowing that I had kind of had to be on my own most of my life. I thought, well, now we have something in common because like they're believers, like, they were telling me about Jesus and like I believe in him, but like my relationship at that point was so much more real and deep with him. Like I'd actually finally connected with him, that like when I would talk to them, you guys were not supposed to be doing this, or did you know how evil this is or that is or this, and then my family thought I was in a cult. Then my family thought that I was, falling into legalism and like being a Pharisee. I'm like, now you think I'm in a cult? Now you're worried? Like, what about the rest of my life when I've been trying to tell you about all these things going on and you've seen things, break around me and turn off around me or get fixed? Like so many crazy things they witnessed, and it's like they were just blind to it.
Yeah, and now you're coming out of it. They think you're in the cult. Like, oh, hello, where were you guys like 20 years ago? It's insane.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like, it blew my mind. I was like, wait a second. You know some of the craziest things I've told you about. You knew when I was dabbling in all this other stuff. Like, did you literally have scales on your eyes to where you weren't even fazed? Like you were under a spell of just look the other way. But now that I've got the Holy Spirit inside of me and I have him teaching me himself what I'm supposed to be doing, and now I'm coming up against you guys who you feel very, secure and wise and well-read, and I being the black sheep and the outcast and the one who was a witch and all this, like I shouldn't know anything, right? So I came against a lot of that haughtiness because I didn't have someone, I didn't go to seminary. I didn't, study like they had. And I was sitting here telling them these things where I was like, no, God said, don't do this. Like Jesus said, we are not to be doing this. And, I remember throwing out the Christmas tree in my house and going through my kids' rooms and finding like Barbie dolls and images and likenesses of things. And I was like my son had like magic cards, like that game Magic and everything, and I was throwing all these things away. I was like, and I remember like we wouldn't eat pork or shellfish or any of this other stuff. And my mom, of all people, told me I was a horrible mother. She broke my heart. She was like so cold towards me, telling me how I was abusing my children by throwing some of their toys away and by refusing to let them have Christmas, and how could I, and all this other stuff. And I was just sitting there like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Like, you weren't concerned when I was involved in witchcraft. You weren't concerned, like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not even bothered by the fact that my son had like demonic magic witchcraft cards that he was playing, and that I didn't have any boundaries for my kids initially, because it was all about, let them grow and let them experience and blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of Druid teachings behind that I won't get into, but really I didn't have any structure for them. And I'm like, now you're worried. Now you think I'm in a cult. Like, what is happening? But truly, the understanding just wasn't there, and it's been hard.
Well,
Like,
if you don't mind, I'd like to read this too, because you mentioned, God says not to do this, because believe it or not, there's people out there who believe that Christian witches, that's insane, or I see people all the time into the New Age cult, stuff like that. They think it's good, and you still could, follow Jesus and still do these things.
They thought it was like my angels and this and that.
Yeah, and so I got right here, Deuteronomy 18, right? If you go to Deuteronomy 18, chapter 10 through 12, verses 10 through 12, I'm sorry. It says, there shall not be found among you anyone that makes his son and daughter pass through the fire, that's child sacrifice, or use divinization, that's any kind of a magic, whatever the case, or observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all these things are an abomination unto the Lord. Plain and simple. They're a pure abomination. So, because there's people out there who believe any of this stuff. They're all over TikTok, man, doing tarot card readings, which is divinization. They have the pendulum thing, which is divinization. It's all evil, plain and simple. So, are you ready to take phone calls? Or you still got more to say?
Oh, there's always going to be more, but yeah, definitely, I want to hear from you.
And I got one question. We're going to put the phone number up here, but question from my friend over here, John. He wants to know, basically, do you think maybe your husband or something was sent in to be a handler for you?
I will be honest and say that thought crossed my mind a lot, because he was in the military also, and he always had a lot of meetings. Like, he wasn't a very high-ranking officer, so anyone who's in the military, that, like, by and large, the soldier doesn't know what the captain's doing unless he's told directly. Like, there are there's degrees of separation, and they have a term, the shit rolls downhill. So when it gets to you, that's when it matters for you to know. But, like, so he was always having these, evening meetings or these weekend meetings, and I'd always be like, do you have drill? Like, what are you doing? Are you going to the field? But he was always gone for a few days at a time, or he would be gone for an evening, well past normal 9 to 5 grunt hours. And I never obviously got any answers like that. And I know that he came into my life via the internet initially. And it wasn't anyone I went looking for. He just popped up and engaged with me and seemed to just really know me and say all the right things, and we dated for a little bit, and I remember there was some weird things that had happened, and I felt kind of really off, and hold
on a second. Hey, caller, Rihanna, hold on one second. Go ahead, Emily. We got a call here, but go ahead, finish up, Emily.
Oh, I'll just make this quick because I don't want to keep them waiting. Yes, the thought crossed my mind. Yes, there was a lot of very weird things that happened, especially with the abuse that took place when I really started coming out of a lot of the submission, because I was pretty much his sex slave too. Like, there wasn't anything he didn't do to me, and it was very violent at times.
So he was like a handler. That
yeah,
sounds like
it was not a loving marriage. It wasn't anything like that. I was very much a piece of property, and I got punished very steeply for anything I wouldn't get. So it's possible, but I don't know.
All right. So caller, you there? 346 number. Oh, hang on, caller. Hang on 1 second. I forgot to change the audio. I do this every time. You figure I get this by now here. So
I can't hear unless you. Yeah.
Yeah, let me change the audio. So stay on the line, guy, wherever you are. So, could you hear me, caller?
Hello?
Yeah, you are. How you doing? You there, caller?
Hello?
Hello? Hello, what's your name?
My name is Jocelyn.
Hi, Jocelyn, how are you?
I'm awesome. Wow, I cannot believe I made it on. I'm super happy right now. So my question is for Emileigh. Are you there?
No, we might have to do that speakerphone thing you did last time. Because I can't hear. I can only hear you. On your cell phone? Okay, yeah. Let me make sure I've got cell phone battery, and I can do that. It won't be as clear though, because my cell phone gets kind of. All right, yeah. I'll. Did you want me to call the other Skype that you put on your phone last time, or just call you on your cell phone from my cell phone? Okay, I'll do that then. Sorry, guys. This is all. We're trying to figure it out.
My microphone's been muted. All right. So, yeah, so we're switching audio, guys. Yeah, if you didn't hear me already, and my microphone muted. So I'm trying to figure out this system. So, yeah, there's always something in the radio business that you got to learn. So, especially with these new programs and everything. Sorry. So here we go. I'm unmuted. Emileigh, you're on the phone here. And call her one more time if you want to ask Emileigh that question again.
Yes. Okay. So you have discussed so much, and one of the, I have a very specific question, and it is basically so it has to do with the witchcraft, because I've been in a position, like, I can tell you my whole story, which that would take forever. Like, I could write a book. But is it possible for, like, for instance, I live in Houston, Texas, and I moved to an area, and a lot of crazy things started happening spiritually. Anyways, so that I don't get into it further, is it possible for, like, an area to be demonically, like, literally possessed? Like, witchcraft, like, it's like you can no, go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so I just give me, like, maybe 2 more minutes, because I really want to ask this. So I had moved into an area, and And I immediately started feeling a lot of oppression. And at that time, I didn't realize what was happening, because when you are unaware, you're completely unaware until you become awake and you realize that it's spiritual. It's a spiritual attack. And then once you wake to the spiritual attack, you can try, you if you're a spiritual person, and you fight back. Well, like literally,
1 second, hon. Hold
I
that thought for
feel
1
like
second.
the whole area is like
Dan,
I have fought spiritually, and I have succeeded in so many ways. Like the Lord has, like, it's insanity. I could tell you stories of what He's done. However, at the same time, the demonic oppression is insane. Is that, like, and I guess what I'm trying to ask is, like, my apartment's there, and right now I'm, like, not even there because the attacks on me have been so fierce that I'm literally paying for a hotel room.
Wow. So did you just recently leave witchcraft? Are you still in it, or what?
No, I moved. Okay, so I moved into an area in Houston in February. It was February of this year, and immediate. Okay, and you have to understand, like, I was not, like, spiritually, on a spiritual level. I just want to explain this. Like, I really didn't become awake to a lot of things until probably about a year and a half ago, right? So when I moved into this area, I'm still like a baby, like, in the spirit. I don't even know if you're... Anyways, I'm still like a baby. Like, I'm unaware of a whole lot of things. So February, I moved in, and all of a sudden these crazy things are happening, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, and I started doing some really crazy things, and at the same time, it's very sinful things that's completely out of my nature, but maybe somewhat in my nature, whatever. But at the end of the day, I realized this is just not normal. Like, why am I doing something that, like, is totally out of my, like, nature? And I'm trying to be, like, not sin. And at the end of the day, oh my gosh, I can't even speak right now. I literally, there are, like, wizards, witches, and warlocks that surround this neighborhood. And I know that sounds crazy, and I know that sounds stupid, but it is...
It is not weird to me at all.
It is, like, very, very real. And I live in an area that is open to a median where they literally stand around. And in the beginning, I was like, oh, they're just homeless. Like, that's all it is. And anyways, at the end of the day, I was doing these things, and it was oppressing me. Everything about me, like my mentality. I was doing crazy things out of the norm that it's just not normal. And then finally, it hit me, and I was like, actually, one night something happened, and the Lord showed me something that is absolutely insane, but we won't get into that. And it just made me realize how crazy the spiritual world is. And then from that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to fight it.
Oh, don't do that by yourself. You need Jesus for that.
That is just a really hard thing, because I have done it and it works, but at the same time, I feel like it is so like the area.
You know, Emileigh's I don't know if you can. Emileigh,
bad.
she's Emileigh's trying to I don't know if you can hear her. She's like saying don't fight it.
I can't hear her.
Yeah, she's saying don't fight it by yourself. Get somebody in the faith with you, and go to that apartment and literally take charge of it. You know what I mean? Literally go in there with severe conviction and all that, and demand that thing, the entities to leave, and that's your apartment, your dwelling. You tell them you need to go, plain and simple, in the name of Jesus.
But there's nobody here though, so what? I can't do that. So I'm like literally gonna leave it. Like it's literally costing me financially
if you want,
everything. Because
you could call me on we could do it some night if you want, and you could call me and we'll go on FaceTime or something, and hopefully that will work. But I don't doubt the power of God, so I could definitely do that with you or Emily, and cleanse that apartment.
Do you want to put me on speakerphone so
You,
maybe she can hear
yep.
or something?
Could you hear me, Emily?
Okay,
I can like barely hear her.
Yeah, she could barely hear you. The phone's low.
Okay, I'll try and speak loud. I have kind of a soft voice, but I'll try and talk loud. I'm sorry if I blow everyone else's eardrums out. Can you hear me enough to at least understand what I'm saying, though?
Yes, I'm listening, yes.
Okay, so first what I was telling you when it comes to you asking, can an area be full of witchcraft or heavily demonically possessed? I said 100%. The way that a lot of occult practices and witchcraft work is on territorial claims, and we're subservient to the demons actually that have those claims in those areas and the powers and principalities above them. Remember, I mentioned there's a hierarchy. The humans are really just the cattle conduits. They make us feel very proud and full of ourselves, but really, if I have to be frank, we're just cattle. We're just conduits that they use to wreak havoc amongst other humans. They hate us, so we don't mean anything to them. Yes, your area 100% can be full of demonic forces and power, and if you have a lot of known witches and warlocks in your area, you probably have an entire operating coven, because they usually stick close to one another when they can do that. And it's even worse if you have a rival coven where there's members of one and members of another in the same area, because there's going to be constant witchcraft going back and forth. One thing I have to let you know is we actually, I say we only because I'm speaking from that angle, they will feed off of innocence around, because you have to understand all of this operates in the spiritual realm. It operates off of frequencies and energy. So that's why stuff that's new age, like, your chakra and all this other crap, it's all very real, but don't ever mess with it, because it's going off of vibrational frequencies and disturbances. Your human body actually operates at a certain frequency, which is why you can become susceptible to different microwave radiations and different things that will actually mess with you. That's how a lot of this spotlight sound control and this frequency manipulation and mind control happens. They actually run music. A lot of popular music is on a damaging frequency. The occult knows this. It's all part of their sacred geometry. They won't teach it to you, though, because, like you said, you're cattle. But 100% you can be affected by what's going on. And if you have any sin in your life or open doors, or if you're walking in disobedience, if you have things you're unrepentant of, you're a sitting duck, because you become an energy source conduit basically for them to feed off, and you're going to get either directly attacked or you're just going to get hit in the crossfire. So what I would highly suggest is, if you're not participating in this stuff directly, but you notice you're doing things and then you come out of it and you're like, that's not even in my character, why would I do that? I have to tell you, you're in the crossfire right now, because that's a lot of what I went through too. A lot of that was demonic. They'd make me do things that I was completely unable to not want to do, but as soon as I was done doing it or came out of that hypnosis, I was terrified and shamed by what had just happened and unable to undo it. So absolutely 100% pray, but don't take this stuff on by yourself, because it's the power of Jesus that's going to protect you. Put on his full armor, really go into Ephesians, read that, understand he's not just listing out pieces of armor because it sounds cool. Those are all spiritually linked. You have to protect your mind and your heart and your hands and your body and your loins, everything sexually. You have to protect your organs. You have to protect everything where sin is going to manifest or make you a part of it. You have to know how to break those binds, and you have to know how to fight against witchcraft, which is why Dan was saying, if you're sure that you're walking in obedience to the Father as best you can, that you've been repentant, that you don't have any things that are in your home, like tarot cards or Ouija boards or crystals or dream catchers or anything that is a conduit, if you don't have anything that you're actively practicing, if you've tried to renounce and rebuke and repent everything you can, and you're still in the crossfire, then that's 100% spiritual warfare. And the best thing I could say is get out of Dodge, get out of that area, because if you're going up against
what I had
an
to
entire
do.
cousin
Yeah.
who's feeding off your neighborhood, I mean, you're going to need a whole team of us trying
Like,
to
it was
that.
really, like, I want to say that, like, I really want to say this is what's insanity. Like, the Lord, like, okay, I live in an area in Midtown Houston, which, and it's, like, so literally I can look out my window and see underneath, like, the highway a bunch of homeless people that play off to be homeless. But they're constantly throwing down curses. They're constantly, and like this was going on, and I saw, like, and I went up to war against it once I figured out what was happening to me, because once you're attacked spiritually like that, and when you get attacked spiritually in that way, and then the Lord lets you see it, like literally see spiritually with spiritual eyes, it can bring, like, so anyways, at the end of the day, I started to fight it spiritually. I was like praying. I was in my word, like Psalms. There's a lot of scripture in Psalms that's warfare, and people don't even know that. And anyway, so I was going up against it, and it literally was amazing because I got to see God work. However, I'm not gonna lie. So just to be very honest, I fell back, and on one of them, like. And what I say is, like, I drank one night, and then when I say that is I struggle with alcoholism. So I remember, like, I don't really know if it's because I'm like I don't know if it really, like, led me back down to it, but I will say that at the end of the day, the reality of it is, I'm like, there has been a constant spiritual attack. The area is so demonic, it's insanity. Like, I don't think people could even comprehend how an area can be taken over. And I just got to a point where I was no longer able to, it's kind of like the Lord left for a second. And I got attacked, even physically. I remember, I'm at a hotel where I've spent literally, I'm about to hit $1,000 that I've spent over the last 2 weeks because I can't be there.
Wow. Yeah, they're expensive.
It's not conducive. Like, I cannot do that. I have a child, you know. So, anyways, at the end of the day, it just got to a point where it was almost like I was still able to go to prayer and fight it spiritually, but it was the oppressiveness was like, I can't even explain to you. It makes you incapable of doing, like, minute things. and it's like things that people take for granted, like, you can't even comprehend, like, why am I tired all of a sudden? Because you are under a demonic oppression.
Yeah, that relates to physical too. I mean,
so what happened? So finally, the reason why I'm in a hotel is because the reason why I finally said forget about it was I couldn't take it anymore. Like, these witches, wizards, and warlocks, because that's really what it is, because I literally can look out my window. I can go to my bathroom, open up my window, and see them. That's the area that I live in. Or go out my front door. Like, it's insanity. And they play off to be homeless, whatever. So, at the end of the day, I had gone into sin. Like, I couldn't take it anymore. Like, so I started to drink, and I should not have. Like, you don't do that. And when you do that, you open doors big time. And anyways, at the end of the day, it opened the Lord has allowed me to fight things spiritually, but that, like, that made me so very vulnerable. And I ended up getting physically attacked. I walked out my door, and this lady started yelling at me, and she was like, "Don't speak to him." And it made me feel like, oh my God, I'm a witch, because it was so, I don't even know if you'll even understand. Like, yes, I was in my house praying. Yes, I had my Bible. Yes, I am like reading out loud, but it's not like I was doing anything to Satan, right? But it was crazy because I go outside just to let my son be outside for a second, and just don't speak to him, and it was so crazy. Anyways, at the end of the day, I was possessed, obviously. Like, I don't know what the hell took over, but something took me over, because I did completely wrong. Like, I took what she said to me in offense, and I went up to her like I was going to do something, yet I wasn't, and I didn't. And she just beat the living hell out of me.
Wow.
And
could you do me a favor? What was your name again?
Jasmine.
Jocelyn?
No, Jasmine.
Can I, is this just a phone number you're calling from?
Yes.
Could I text you and be in touch with you, because I want to work with you and hopefully help you out, and because we got other people trying to call in too. So I want to be in touch with you. I could give you my email if you want. I could text you after the show.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. But
okay.
yeah, so thank you so much. And that's fine, but thank you.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
I appreciate it. All right, you guys have a good night.
Yeah, God bless you.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, thank you, and God bless. And yeah, guys, everybody in the chat room, please pray for her right now. Let's do a spiritual covering for her in Jesus' blood. So, 912 phone number. You are on the air. How you doing?
Hey, Dan. Hey, it's Tim Morgan.
Hey, what's up, Tim?
Hey. Yeah, a lot going on tonight.
Yeah.
I just, so much covered. Want to touch base, Emily, what you were saying about, being able to finish other people's sentences, the premonitions that would come true. I've experienced all this younger age. I thought that I was the Lord was waking me up, giving me spiritual eyes to see as I was growing in Him, and I was seeing all these things. And when you're talking about all this stuff, it took me back to my childhood, and I can remember I didn't have good vocabulary either, but I was taken to the zoo one time, and I was taught about, we went and saw the monkeys and the baboons, so I knew the word baboon. But back then we lived in a trailer, and down the hallway, I realized now I was seeing demons, but just being a little kid, I called them baboons, and I would not go down that hallway unless my dad carried me and put me to bed. I was seeing that at a young age, and I can remember being in about the 5th grade. Never been to this guy's house. We were talking on the phone, and I sat there and described his kitchen, the cabinets, that they were green cabinets. Described the sliding glass door. And he's going, "How do you know all this stuff? You've never been here." I was like, "I don't know." It's like I didn't know 100% for sure, but I could see it in my mind, and it was strong enough for me to describe it to him. Hey, is it this? Is it that? He's like, yeah. So, and I was never involved in any, occult stuff. I'm just wondering if there's when you're younger, if that veil is just in and out all your life.
There's a lot of people and there's a lot of studies that have actually been done when it comes to children being a lot more perceptible to the spiritual realm, to the supernatural. And so I wouldn't put that past. And I know that in the occult, there's a lot of stuff that they actually have to do to destroy the innocence and fracture the mind before typically the age of 7 is their preferred age. And so if it was any time around then, there's a lot of I'm not, an expert in that area, so I can't tell you definitively how true that is. When it comes to children and their ability to perceive things, I know animals especially, they see very different from us. They have different, sometimes my animals, they would just growl and bark at the corner, and the wall is not offending them. It's what's standing next to the wall. So animals are extremely good at picking up on supernatural, spiritual stuff. But when it comes to children, I believe that children are a little more perceptive. They're excellent judges of character, for one. They have great intuition. So I couldn't speak more than that, other than to say it's a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
When you were talking about premonitions and everything, even up into my 30s, had a little trouble. I had because I was a Christian, I had a paper mill. The whole company was trying to destroy me. Anyway, I was laid off, and I had a premonition that my union steward. Well, I just knew. I knew for a fact that he was going to have a heart attack. And the night before, the day before going to probation, they called me, hey, the main steward, he's had a heart attack. Company doesn't know it yet, and they don't want to go to arbitration. They want to settle, But it's things like that all along my life that I absolutely knew before it happened. And it's without witchcraft or being involved in anything. So I think a lot of that stuff can come just natural, or the Lord lets you see it and know it. Like, hey, when this happens, don't freak out. I've still got your back. You're still going to win. I'm still with you. But one of the main reasons I'm calling you, there is a woman in my church. She has no one to help her. She has not slept a full night, and we're talking 10, 15 years. All right. She lost a daughter to, I don't know the exact circumstances, the occult and music. She committed suicide. This lady has been obsessed ever since then. She used to hear voices. They would talk to her. She would actually hear them. But she said Jesus in the scriptures, that she doesn't hear them anymore. That they attack her in her sleep. They'll come pull on her arms and legs. They'll come into her dreams and make her do stuff in her dreams, wake her up. She gets no peace. And she said even she thinks one of her neighbors is in on it, because she's about to move, and she said she hadn't told anybody, and her neighbor comes up, says, hey, you're going to be moving soon. So all this demonic oppression and what's going on with her, there's other people involved, and she's really having a rough time. And when the pastors preach against Psalms 91 and they go get vaccinated, there's no one to help her in all this, and she is just miserable and obsessed, and she does not know what to do, where to turn, or anyone.
Well, I would. You still talk to her?
Oh yeah.
So what you do is, if you want, give her my email address or phone number, and prefer my email this way. It's better because I get a lot of junk calls. So give her my email address and tell her what I do and all that. Then tell her feel free to call me. Email me her phone number, or if she wants just email whatever she wants to do. But tell her to get in contact with me, and I could pass along to Emileigh as well. And we could take care of that because we've got some other people trying to call in too. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
well.
Tim, get us connected with her, and
Yeah, and thank you for letting us know that. And please let her know that as well.
Okay. Great show. God bless you guys.
Thank you, Tim.
Talk to you later.
God bless you, brother.
Right.
God bless you, Tim.
God bless
Thank
you. Hi, Emileigh.
No, I think Valerie, you said you wanted to call in, right?
Yay!
Valerie Angelino. So, being called to call in. I think you were trying to call in a minute ago. So I'm not trying to rush anybody out there. It's just, I'm sorry. I wish I could keep you on longer, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people calling in. So I'm trying to, So we got another call coming in, anonymous phone call. So anonymous phone call. How you doing? What's your name?
It's Angel.
Hey, Angel. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are you, Emily?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
The reason why I want to call in is I had a interesting dream yesterday that kind of concerns me because I haven't had a dream like this in a while, and I'm trying my best to be obedient to Christ and doing everything I need to do. So I was wondering, because it was a sexual dream, and in this dream I don't remember seeing anybody or anybody that I know. All I remember is the feeling I got out of it, and it was like one of those dreams that you feel, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Emily, I was wondering if that is a incubus, succubus spirit, and do they just come just because, or maybe, I don't know if I've opened any doors. I was just kind of curious about that.
Well, for stuff like that, I mean, if you've got any kind of past or whatever, it really just depends, because like what I know from experience is it's a process of trying to rid yourself of all of those connections and renounce things and close doors. It's not really an event. It can be if the Lord delivers you immediately from everything, and then he can work with you specifically to close everything immediately. But we have a lot of our own behaviors to change and our mindsets on things. And like little children, we have to learn things. And he goes at different paces for different people. And I can't, presume to box the Father in. So it's really hard to kind of answer for him why that could be happening. It could be to show you things that you still need to address. It could be that you're being allowed to be tested for a particular reason, or it could be, like you said, there may be some legal foothold that is still available, and that's when I would really just take it to Jesus and say, he already knows it happened, so really I would just be specific with him and say, I don't understand why this happened, but I need you to sift me. I need you to help me understand, make it make sense to me. Tell me what this means, if it matters at all. Was it just a manifestation of my imagination or deep-seated fears that just took hold of my subconscious, or was it something demonic? Is there something I still need to repent of? Is there something in my home, or am I connected to a person in my life right now who, is negative, or who is causing me to have this type of fellowship in an unclean way with them? Is there anything that I'm just not aware of? Because he'll make it known to you. I mean, he will, if you seek him honestly and earnestly in prayer. He doesn't want you to sit there floundering without answers. I mean, he will give you answers. Sometimes you have to wait a little bit, but he will allow you the discernment. He will give you the answers. He will help you move through it. You just have to give it to him. I can't really speak on whether or not it was demonic or whether it was something that was internally manifested in the form of a nightmare or whatnot. But what I can say is that he's there to help you 100%. He will explain to you, and he will reveal to you if there's some kind of legal footholding that you still have given to an entity that you need to take that power back and give it back to Christ. You need to renounce their legal authority over you and close that door, or cut that tie, or remove that item or habit. I know with me personally, it's been a journey, because there were so many different things that were layered when it came to my personality, when it came to levels of trauma and PTSD I was going through, that there were parts of me that I wasn't even consciously aware of. And so he's been working with me over the course of many years to just reveal other aspects of myself that I wasn't aware of, that, I could look at now intellectually and be like, oh my gosh, like that's just absurd, or that's insane, or that's me, like I did that. But, there may be things that maybe you're not aware of yet in your personality, or things that, like I said, you haven't really addressed with him. And one thing I love to do, and I'll tell this to everybody, is just plead with him to sift you and seek out and find and bring to your mind anything that's displeasing, anything that you still need to be,
an account with him over so that you can acknowledge it, because he will protect you, he will provide for you, and don't be scared when these things happen. One thing I really have leaned into him, and he's given me the ability to just not be scared, because ultimately I acknowledge he is the ultimate power. There's no one stronger than him. There's no magic that, I mean, he could flick these little beings away. Like, it's not even a fight. So he is, I mean, literally when you're standing with him, like, nobody can touch you. And so sometimes he'll allow you to experience things because they're teaching you, because they're things that you need to have brought to your consciousness, because they're things that require a second look from you, so you can take it to him. But always the answer should always be take it back to him. Whether it's good, bad, indifferent, take it to him and allow him to teach you and reveal and help you work through every little thing. And pray over everything. Pray over everything.
Absolutely. And
then,
so if you got any other questions too, I mean, like, please shoot me an email. I mean, I don't mean to cut people off. It's just like, a lot of people trying to call in and all that. And I wish I had more time to spend with everybody. Or if you want, call back too. But hit me with your email, right? Hit me up, and I'll send the information to her as well, and we could further discuss this as well.
all right, thank you, Dan. Thank
You're
you, Emily.
welcome. And I'm so happy people calling in, because this is stuff that this needs to be discussed and all that. And unfortunately, you can't find this kind of discussion or help in our local churches, which is it's unsettling, it really is.
It's infuriating because there's so many people held captive. There's so many people stuck in fear or stuck in cycles or being victimized. And either people don't believe them, or they think they're crazy. They want to put them in a psych ward or get them medicated. Oh, you have schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Oh, you have anxiety, or oh, you're just an addict.
Yeah.
No, you're not. And while I'm saying that, let me just say real quickly, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, please don't go to those groups.
No, they're occults.
Yeah, I know. I was in AA. I know it was a cult.
Yep.
An evil report. It is an evil report against God, because they will teach you that you are always an addict, that you are always an alcoholic. That's not true. That's not true. You can be delivered 100%. You are made new. You are not always anything. That is a lie from the pit of hell.
Yes, it is.
And they don't even praise and worship the true God Almighty. They don't praise and worship Jesus Christ. They accept anyone to just call on whatever is their higher being. That is just new age ridiculous crap. And don't ever, ever, ever let anyone tell you once an addict, always an addict.
Yeah.
It's not true.
And I want to add too. I want to add, as far as the dreams, and of course me, I'm an Italian guy. Okay, I'll put it that way, because us Italians got hormones like no tomorrow. I gotta be blunt with you, you know what I mean? So, especially growing up, I had plenty of those dreams, when I tell you, okay? But the best thing to do is, like, sometimes you can't control your dreams. So is it really held against you? We don't know. But either way, when you dream, when you wake up, or finally realize what's going on, just tell Satan, get out of my head. Get out of my head right away. Jesus, like, right away. Get behind me, Satan, get out of my head. And right away, say, Jesus, please forgive me for that dream. And even though you had no control of it, still ask for forgiveness anyway. And just all you could do is pray. But, please email me. I put my, it's Truth Radio Show at Outlook.com.
All right, thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Good night.
So 832 number 832. You are on the air. How you doing?
Hold on. Let me turn off my AC so I could hear you more.
Sure. What's your name?
Hey, this is Max. I had called in last week talking about living with my mom on the same property with the witchcraft and stuff she got going on. And then also with some of the topics y'all were speaking about tonight, I had I don't know if it's a question or I just want to bring it to y'all's attention and see what y'all think about it. Several times, like, I remember one time, my experiences. I remember one time I was asleep and my phone was ringing and I had a picture of my pastor's sister in my head. And then when I woke up, and like, I haven't talked to her for a while, there was no reason for me to like think anything of her. When I woke up and, answered my phone, it was her. And another time, I had a dream of my grandma. She was in Philippines. I don't talk to her. I don't really have a relationship with her at all. And there was just a language barrier at the time also. I had a dream she was in a wheelchair, and she just disintegrated like sand into the wind from the bottom up. And a couple days later, my mom got a phone call that she had died. And one more example of something like that was a few days ago. I looked at my dog, and a thought came to my mind, a deliberate thought saying she's going to die today. And, you know, I rebuked it and whatnot, especially I don't like having these thoughts because they freak me out when they come true.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, she recently started having breathing issues. I don't know if it's because her age and how she deals with viruses or whatnot, and they're trying to not diagnose her with asthma at such a young age, but I've been praying against dreams I've been having about her too, like dying of her breathing issues. But back to my dog, that day I had no reason to think anything. She ended up going into labor that day, and she popped out a stillborn puppy. I tried reviving it, nothing, you know, it was stillborn. And I was going through, you know, watching her throughout the hours of the day. I was like, still no puppy, still no puppy, still no puppy. And it was just not clicking in my head that anything was wrong with her at all. And next thing I know, she died. And I remember that deliberate thought I had earlier on in the day. I was like, I'm kind of like sad because I had her for like 7 years. I was working in construction and whatnot, and I used to take her on the job site, take her to church and all that. And I don't know how to take these thoughts. Like, I don't know if they're from God or if it's something I could have changed or something I could have done, if it's good, if it's evil, if I'm even supposed to have these thoughts or dreams or experiences, or what is it?
So basically what you're talking about, or what your main question is like you've had experiences in the past and then more recently when you've had a feeling or a thought that something was going to happen and then it happened, and that's what you're asking about?
I'm wondering what exactly that is, and if I had those thoughts, was there anything, like example, my dog, why would I even have that thought? Was there anything I could do, or...
Well, sometimes it's spiritual intuition too, because that's happened to me. The phone will ring, right, literally, and right in my head, I know who died. You know what I mean? And they'll call, oh, this so-and-so died. I already knew before that the phone started ringing. You know what I mean? Same thing with my father. When my real father died, I was in Florida, and as soon as the phone rang, it was no prerequisition that he was going to die or anything. Phone rings right in my head. My father died. I mean, it's just like all of us. Yeah.
To me, so that's what I was going to say.
And it's not like
it's not always like an evil thing if you know
spiritual intuition.
If you know that you're like, you know, obeying Christ and you're walking out a life as righteous as you can, leaning in, pressing into Jesus, trying to abide in Him, and you're dealing with, you've already dealt with repentance and generational curses, and you're trying to keep everything clean, and you just have these thoughts sometimes, like you just know someone who's really close to you really needs you, and they're going to call, and you know it's them before you pick up, or someone that you love died, and you know, and it happened, and you didn't have any way to know that. I wouldn't ever put it past God to allow you to have that intuition, because I know that He's allowed me to have it in ways that were completely nothing to do with and far after any of the involvement I was in. Like Dan was saying, he knew his dad was dead. I knew my dad had died. I knew it was my brother calling me before I ever picked up the phone or looked at it, and I knew. I had even said to my husband at the time, my dad's dead. And I picked up the phone, and it was my brother, and he was letting me know that I died. So I think sometimes, and I can't speak for the Father. I can only go off of what I think. So this is not thus saith the Lord. This is thus thinketh me. But I think sometimes He does allow us to have foreknowledge of certain things, especially when it's people close to us. There's a lot of actual, when it comes to like bonds you make and soul ties you make with people, they're not all bad. Like, we do make bonds and ties with people we're really close to. And so I think there's some instances, I wouldn't commingle the two, though, and think that, they're all good or they're all okay or anything like that. I think there's a clear line of demarcation between it.
Yeah.
But I do think, you can have, a spiritual sensitivity. He can give you an awareness of things that are going to definitely impact you, or that you're going to have an emotional bracing for, or be there to really be empathetic and help someone out. Because I know that he's done that for me. Like when my grandfather was dying,
yeah.
I mean, I was standing right at my grandpa's bedside, and I felt the presence of Jesus right next to me on my left side, and my grandpa was actually talking to him, and I thought my grandpa had, slipped into a moment of, woo-woo Alzheimer's and, forgot I was standing there, because I was like, I'm right here, Grandpa. What do you mean, there I am? You were waiting for me. He was talking to Jesus. And I only realized that, and the physical sensation I was feeling to my left side when my grandfather then diverted his eyes back to me and said to me, not knowing so much of what I was struggling with, he said, I have to tell you because you need to hear this. He said, it's all real. Everything's real. Don't ever doubt. It's going to be okay, baby. He's got you. And in that same moment of him prophesying to me, I also knew immediately he was going to die that day. I told my mom as I was leaving the room, I said,
spiritual.
Say your goodbyes because Grandpa's going to die. And he did a few hours later. There's no way for me to know that except through God. So I think, yes, in some instances, he can give you that awareness.
Absolutely. So, that's, our takes on that. And, again, it's not evil. We're not saying it's evil unless you use divination, whatever. But other than that, I think it's just, because we're all connected, spiritually, not New Age way. I'm talking about, we're God's people and everything. So I think that's more like, the Lord letting you know. You know what I mean? It's like your husband and wife. I mean, you know each other. You could be miles away and you feel that there's something wrong. You know what I mean? It's not saying it's evil or nothing. And so hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It's a struggle because, when you come from a life of traumatized sin and then the closer you get to God, you're still experiencing some amazing mental processing things to where you feel crazy when you are in sin, and then sometimes when you get closer to God, you feel even crazier. Yeah.
Well, that's how it is. It's, we're always labeled as crazy people. You know what I mean? The world will be crazy, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's what the Father thinks.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
Well, y'all have a good night. Thanks.
You too. God bless you. All right. And before you take another call, guys, I want to address something in the chat room here. T. Jizzy, that's his name. I don't know what the heck that even means. So anyway, and he's talking about saying the Ten Commandments were a ripoff from the old Egyptian Kemet, texts and all that stuff. Well, I actually did shows to debunk that, and Jesus was created by the Romans. Well, first of all, before Romans existed, okay, if you look in the ancient books, well before the Romans, okay, he was called the Lord of Spirits, the Lord of Hosts, okay, in the book of Enoch and everything else. So, the name Jesus itself is, like a newer name of him, but is Yeshua Messiah. Long before that, and it's a long night. But, in the Kabbalah, the Old Testament there, okay? So the old Jewish text and everything, and the Torah, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. He was already mentioned in the Torah, in Genesis, okay? In the ancient books, he's mentioned, okay? So the Romans didn't make Jesus up. They made the name Jesus, but Jesus was ancient text message. Now, as far as you're saying with the Ten Commandments, okay? Me and both Nolan from Cascadia Cutlery, we proved before, because here's the thing, in everybody's mind, they think the Ten Commandments just popped along when it was given to him, Moses on Mount Sinai. No, the Ten Commandments were already law before that. They weren't established as the Ten Commandments, but they were already law long before the Egyptians even came around. From the day of creation, okay, the seventh day, God sanctified the seventh day. From when man started work the earth, he already set these laws in motion. So long before any civilization existed on this planet, anyone, even Jews, okay, these things were already set in motion. It was already illegal to commit adultery, worship other gods, and also if you take those so-called Ten Commandments, I did a whole show on this. Those commandments from Egypt, there are only a very few similar to the actual Ten Commandments, and they're just common law. You don't murder, you don't steal. That's just common law. So, no, the Ten Commandments are not a ripoff from the old Egyptian text because these laws were established long before Egypt even came to be. Or even Kemet or any of these civilizations, even the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, whatever you want to put, long before any of these civilizations even thought of. By the way, which came, we did a host, a lot of shows on this stuff. It's a lot of stuff in my head right now. So these have already been debunked, okay? We did tons of shows, and if you want, go through my playlist there. We've already debunked this stuff, and a lot of this stuff is out of that garbage video, Zeitgeist. They just try to say Jesus falls in the same category as these other gods or whatever, fake gods or whatever, I should say. But no, he doesn't. There's no similarities at all. And that so-called Ten Commandments of the Egyptians, only a couple of them match. And again, that common law. You don't murder, you don't steal. Bottom line. You know what I mean? So anyway, let's get to a calls. 828 number. You are on the air. How you doing? What's your name?
I go by Handmaid in the chat. My name's Alyssa.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. I could be better, but Jesus is going to take care of it.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen. So how you doing tonight?
I called because at night, a lot of times, it's like something is messing with me while I'm sleeping or while it's almost as if it knows my subconscious and knows my past, and it's using it. I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to fight it. But I stand on the blood of Jesus, and see, I had a dark past. It's too much to go into, but and I came from a family that was in Wicca, and some family members are still in Wicca. I live by myself.
Yep.
And I have disabilities. And he's just tried to use fear and stuff against me. It's a lot to go into. Sorry, I was switching phones.
No, that's all right. Take your time.
But I don't know how to deal with it as far as the entity, because it's like it's wanting me to think lies or whatever, and then when I'm hearing certain things of the Word of God, it's like an evil thought will pop into my mind about the Word of God, and I rebuke it, and it's attacking me. I know it is, and I don't know. I pray against it, but I want someone to help me pray against it, because it's like I know it's from the pits of hell. And it's really there. I have felt there are frequencies. I know exactly what she's talking about, because it's almost as if it's a higher being other than the Lord trying to use frequency against me and get into my mind and use my past and stuff against me that I am coming out of, have come out of, and it's a lot. Tonight's heavy, man. Tonight's really heavy.
Yeah, and go ahead, Valerie. Go ahead, Emileigh, if you want to give your take for us.
I was just going to say, one of the first things I would point out to you, especially since you still have active members in your family who are practicing, is you probably have a horde of familiar spirits that are attached to your family.
Can you repeat that? I'm very hearing impaired, and I kind of need you to say that again, if you don't mind.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, because you said that you still have a lot of members in your family who are still practicing Wiccans, you probably have a lot of familiar spirits that are still attached to your family.
Oh, yeah. I would definitely, and I don't know how to rebuke it. The enemy has tried to say, well, it's just weird. It's weird. It's heavy. It's a lot. But I have come out of certain things I served I didn't even realize to what degree, but I served the dark spirit that is over our nation right now, and I did not even know it when I was not in the Lord. And I'm coming out of it, but I know what I don't know this spirit's name per se. I think it's infirmity or whatever. But anyway, it's like what the spirit that is over this pandemic, I didn't even realize to what degree, honey, I was serving that spirit. And I didn't even know when I was in the world. And, you know, I'm still trying to get closer to Jesus Christ. But I want to give the testimony for Jesus Christ, how he brought me out. But, I mean, it's a lot and it's heavy. And
no, it is. It's a struggle. And I want to relate to that with you because even though, like, I, practice a spiritual warfare and all that, I try to educate myself every day with it, I still get attacked too. Just last night, literally, I'm trying to sleep, and for some reason, I don't know if these demons got a foot fetish or something. I don't know, but every time I try to sleep, if I don't pray before I go to bed, if I don't get right with the Lord, I swear, every time I fall asleep, it would literally tug at my foot, or wake me up. I feel something sit beside me, poke at me. This goes on all the time. You know what I mean? And if I don't physically pray before going to sleep, even taking so much of a nap, it would wake me up. One time we came into work early, had a half hour, I'm like, let me set my alarm, I'll take a nap in the car. Nope, every time I fell asleep, like you said, it knows your conscience.
And I'm trying to keep the commandments, but I am blind and I can't read what's on labels sometimes.
Yep.
And I'm trying to keep the commandments and do right and eat clean. And I've been going to a church that teaches you have to dress a certain way, like the women can't wear pants or whatever, and because it's men's appearance. They'll teach out of that verse, but they won't teach on the eating clean and doing clean, and it's all in the same chapter. So it brought confusion into me. And I think the enemy used that door of confusion to try to get to me as far as my past in these I know it, and it's frequency stuff, because I will wake up and literally feel the electricity of something that has tried to mess with me. And I mean, I honestly believe that the fallen are here or coming into this realm, and they're trying to deceive.
Well, the book of Enoch, and also the scripture also says about these. They're here. I mean, when the Nephilim were killed, their spirits, instead of going to condemnation, they were cursed to the earth until judgment. So they're here. That's why Jesus, when he rebuked the demon legion, they asked him, you here to condemn us before our time? In other words, send them to hell. No, he let them go into the swine, because the Father, he condemned all these spirits, which are known as demons and unclean spirits, to the earth here. They hunger, they thirst, they lust, but they can't satisfy it because they're in the spirit. And it makes them even more rage. So they're still here. I
have made up my mind that I want to serve Jesus Christ, the true light, to the degree, tenfold at least what I served darkness when I was in darkness. And man, I was in the church and I didn't even realize the darkness I was in. You know what I'm saying? It's a coming out thing, and when come out from among them and be ye separate, or come out of her my people. And I'm trying to come out of her my people, but I feel like an island unto myself. And I've been I'm like, I'm an island unto myself. No. But God spoke to me in a still small voice and said, well, if you're the island and it seems that the waves are crushing against you and eroding, I'm the waters that surround you. You're my island.
Amen.
And I'm like, wow, wow, because the thing is, Satan doesn't like it, because I've come out of certain things, and not that my flesh is not still tempted, because it is, but because I'm coming out of all this stuff and from my youth, but now I'm seeing to what degree I was really bound and didn't even know. And because I've come out of it, it's like he's trying to mess with my mind and use my past against me. But I want to, it's on the altar. This past is my Isaac. And
what you need to do is, and I didn't mean to cut you off because of the sake of time here, but what you need to do is, if it brings up the past, confront it right there. Say, listen, you can't hold that against me. Jesus paid for those sins. Guess what? You can't bring it up no more. You need to let them know that. You need to be vocal against these things. And also, don't feel guilty, because they're trying to make you feel guilty. Don't let it happen. Don't feel afraid. Don't feel guilty, because those sins are paid for. You know what I mean? Jesus paid for them this way.
I want to use it,
and, what I would suggest you to do is
I don't know how yet, and pray that God will show me, but I want to use I want to turn it around for good and use this testimony for His glory.
Yes.
Because it's I want to serve Him tenfold at least the way I serve the enemy, and I mean, I don't know what it's going to take, but I'm wanting a full breakthrough with this stuff that's trying to mess with me at night. And see, I don't know. That's why I called. It's like the dream. It's messing with me in my dreams, or I wake up and I can't even move. It's like.
Yeah, there's a couple things I just wanted to address. I really feel like, especially because you have still practicing Wiccans in your family, you need to be very specific, and you need to renounce and rebuke everything that you participated in, renounce all of the spells you ever did, the elements you ever worshipped, anything you participated in. You need to come against those generational curses and declare that they will not have authority over you. Pray over your family, hand it to Jesus Christ and say, by the blood of Jesus Christ, this has no authority over me. I am bought and paid for by the Son of the Most High God, and I renounce.
Right. Yeah. See, I wasn't involved in any kind of spells or anything, but I was prone to be deceived spiritually because of the stuff that they're doing, in Wicca, and they firmly, and they'll tell you, I'm telling you, they'll tell you that these things that are in the Christian churches today, like holidays and stuff, they'll tell you that it came from paganism, and it's like I've got people in my family that are proud of their paganism.
And they're right. Unfortunately, they are 100% right. Yep.
Right, and I believe that, and God showed me that for a reason, because He's bringing me out. He has been for years, and I didn't know how to come out. It's like. Yeah. Because as long as the one thing I was dealing with could bind me, then it could have authority over me. And, man, I just, he whom the Son has set free is free indeed. But I just don't like it messing with me at night. See, that it's like I've got to figure out where there's where the open door is coming from, because the nights are mine. Jesus Christ He's God in the evening time. I mean, He moved. It was midnight when He moved for Ruth when she went to Boaz. It was midnight when Gideon. Midnight, He moves in the midnight, and I want my midnights back. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you gotta just.
I'm sorry, Dan. He's not even tripping over any of these things because they all have to bow to Him. Mm-hmm. And so one thing I really want to stress to you is you sound like you're still operating in a lot of fear. I know it's terrifying. I know they're real. I know the torment is real. I know it divides you. It makes you feel insane. It makes you feel vulnerable and alone. You are not alone. You have the remnant of God all around you in this fellowship, NYSTV, FOJC, Remnant Restoration, this whole family He's been drawing together for years now. We are all with you. You are not alone. You have Jesus Christ. You have the Spirit of God, or you couldn't even say half the stuff you've been declaring. But you are operating still in fear. I need you, honey, to release that and understand the God you serve. Understand that He is the creator of everything. And everything right now that's coming against you is a created being. They are not the creator. It doesn't even matter if we're talking about the principalities that are over this particular nation, all of the wickedness that's behind everything that's happening. They don't do anything unless He first allows it, because it's His chess game and everything has to happen for His purpose. We are but threads on a tapestry, so it's very hard to see the whole quilt when we're just a little thread. Yes. But I need you to truly do not deny the power of God. I know He's in your heart. I know He's in your mind, but you need to stand firmly and confidently on the power of the begotten Son of the Most High, your holy, holy Savior. He is the Messiah. There is none beside Him. He is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. They will bow to Him.
I know that. It's just that it's getting to me when I'm sleeping.
No, yeah, I can relate to that. Like I said, it happens to me too. Much as I study and all that. And here's the thing, like my buddy Jonathan, he's right next to me. He also put in the chat room, we can never, ever, there's not one person on this planet that can honestly say that we are 100% with the Ten Commandments, because we're not. You know what I mean? We break them all the time. We sin all the time. And we all of us fall short of the glory, no matter what you could do or say. So don't hold that against you. And what I want you to do is, you have my email?
No, sir, I don't. I need to. Is it
Truth Radio Show at Outlook?
It all one word? Truth Radio Show, no caps?
Yep, no caps. Just Truth Radio Show at Outlook.com.
Okay, if I send you an email, I dictate a lot of my email, and sometimes with my hearing, and especially with no vision, there might be dictation errors, but I think you'll get it.
All right, I'll put it in the chat room again, too, yeah. Truth Radio Show. And I sorry to cut you off, because what we're going to do is
I'm through, and
There's an email right there in the chat room there.
Had the email right, because, I can't see how it's written, just only what you said.
Okay, yeah, just remember Truth Radio Show, like my show here, no spaces, no caps, at Outlook.com.
I got it. I'll email you. Thank you for
thank
everything.
You,
and
in a couple
God
weeks,
bless all of you. Yahweh bless y'all, and may He keep y'all in Jesus' name. And I love everyone on here.
Love you too. God bless. So what we're going to do is, Emileigh, if you don't mind, like a couple of weeks, do you want to come back on? We'll just do a Q&A the whole show. Because I think there's so many people, and I feel so bad for everybody that told you I have to cut you off because of the callers and give you my email. Please contact me. I want to keep you on long as possible, but because of the time and everything, it's really, because we're going on 3 hours now. So if you want, Emileigh, do you want to come back in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, and do just Q&A? Just to finish this, because a lot of people have questions, and I know they still need more answers, and we could help people. We could pray for them online. Do you want to come back in a week or two, a couple weeks?
Yeah, I'm
all right.
Totally fine with that, because I my heart goes out to everybody, because I will never call you crazy. I will never say that doesn't exist or you need to seek medical help. No, because I know all too well how very real and very varied all of the different types of things that come against us, be they beings or just curses we bring upon it. It's all real. And that's, I'm with you, Dan, because that's one of the most frustrating things with churches is they either don't want to talk about it or they want to preach you some cupcake version of Christianity, and there's no accountability. There's no real knowledge being given to people. They're not told how to fight these things off. They're not even told you have to really stare these things down and look into know yourself, take it to the Father and repent of these things. It's just so frustrating, because I don't want to see people feeling so scared and so isolated, and like no one's gonna believe them, or they're crazy, or they're just super depressed, or no, that's not the case. We're never gonna judge you. It's never gonna be something crazy. I'm so thankful for every single person who calls in, because just even getting the fellowship amongst each other and strengthening one another with our stories, and just completely giving all praise and glory to the Father through Jesus Christ, and just really standing on our faith and sharpening one another and edifying each other, because the world doesn't care about your pain. They're just going to inflict it. And most of the world, sadly, on the human side, most of them, they're blind, deaf, and dumb to what's going on right now. So you really don't have anyone to turn to in the world. And so I'm so thankful for your platform, Dan, and what you're doing, and people, you guys calling in and trusting us as the body, just trusting your brothers and sisters to receive you in love with these things. Like, don't ever stop, because when you speak them and you get them out and you declare victory over them through Jesus Christ, like, you don't know how powerful that is until you're on the other end going, why didn't I confess this to my brothers and sisters sooner? Why didn't I really stand on the power and my faith of Jesus Christ? I shouldn't have to be scared of these things. They want me in fear, but that's not my destiny. He paid for me. I'm bought and paid for by the blood of Jesus Christ. And he said that we have the power over them. We have dominion over them through him. And, I'm so happy. The people are calling in, they're listening, and they're sharing, and they're feeling like, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. Like,
absolutely.
Like, what that's just the greatest blessing.
It is. And also, Valerie wanted to call in, so I told her I'd call her online. So I'm calling you, Valerie, and this will be the last call of the night, guys. And we'll have closing comments from Emileigh. So, see, Valerie. It's what he calling people when they. See if she answers. Answer your phone, Valerie. She wanted to call and say a word. Hello, Valerie.
Hey, Brother Dan. How are you?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Valerie.
Hi, Emileigh.
Hi.
Everybody in the chat.
This is Valerie Angelino. She's chat room general here. So if you want to get you got the last call tonight.
Okay, my question is, my daughter is 27. She has autism, but she has episodes, like her meltdowns, and she says things like, you heard her, right, Brother Dan? Like, she'll curse. And
Yeah.
She'll, and I always pray for her healing. Like, it's hard,
Yeah.
It's not easy. I'm just like, I just wanted some advice. Like, what do you recommend me do?
I keep praying. I mean, because that's the best thing you can do, and just I'm sure you talked to her about God and all that. Because my son, he's got some autism too, and when he gets upset, he gets really upset, and he uses some curse words, which I don't like at all. But what's working lately is I start reminding him, because he's been asking a lot of questions about heaven and hell, everything crazy, stuff adults would ask. So I remind him that God doesn't like that, you know what I mean? And he knows the Ten Commandments. So most of the time that calms him down. It shifts him off from that tirade, you know what I mean? So I understand where you come from, because my son's like almost the same way. So I would remind her. I say, listen, what is God going to think? You know what I mean? And just talk to her about God, and you try to diffuse the whole situation. Keep bringing up God. God's not going to like it, and He loves you, this, that, and the other thing. And that, and also pray. That's the best thing we could do right now, because the world's got a grip on our children, and our children are the biggest spiritual targets there is, plain and simple, physically, mentally, spiritually. So I would highly recommend to do that. And your thoughts, Emily?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. It's just, I would say, I can only imagine how difficult that is, and I know how taxing it can be on you emotionally and physically and spiritually, especially wondering, did I do something to cause this? Did I, did she inherit something from something I did? We read in Scripture how Jesus healed the lame and the blind and the mute and the deaf and the dumb, and we look at some of the things happening with our children and a lot of the conditions that so many people go through, and we have those moments where we're just sitting there, especially as a parent, terrified or just brokenhearted, like, did I cause this? But you know what, I truly believe that He has a plan for all His children, and I don't think that it's for us to always understand and have the answers, but I do know His grace is sufficient, and I do know that whatever she's going through, whatever is trapped inside her mind, whatever her version of reality is, He is right there with her. Like, He knows her and He has her. And so I would same as Dan said, continue to pray over her, continue to read her the Scriptures, let her watch things that are biblical so she gets the audio visual. Let her, I don't know, is she more of like tactile inclined, or is she more audio visual? What kind of gets her attention more?
Yeah, she's very spoken. She's very smart. She talks a lot.
So she absorbs information by audio, visual, versus if she watched the video.
So she's high functioning, and she can carry on really intelligent conversations with you.
Yeah, simple conversation though. She's very smart, but she has a mind of like a child.
Right. So, I mean, in that regard, I would view it as a blessing that she does have the mind of a child, because there's so much evil, there's so much perversion that she's not ever going to have to come up against and have to deal with on her conscience or anything. So in that regard, I would view it as a blessing, and just remind yourself, His grace is sufficient for me. He has a plan in everything. He made her. He knew exactly how she was going to come out. And honestly too, like the struggles we go through as parents, I believe it's all part of our own growth too. She may have taught you so much patience and empathy and compassion and steadfastness and strength that you might not have had otherwise. And so it's really hard, I know, in the thick of things, especially when it's so exhausting, to look at things from that kind of angle. But that's what I would try, especially on your hard times where you're just crying out to the Father because you're exhausted and it's hard and you're emotionally wrecked, is just really just press into him and thank him through all things and help him help you, or not help him, but ask him to help him or help you really kind of see things through his eyes and have, you know, more of an understanding so that you can lean into his strength. And when it comes to her and maybe some of her outbursts or some of the ways that are really just bothersome to you because you're like, oh, like I don't like that. I don't understand why she acts like that or says those things. I would just say, you know, hold her accountable to as much as she can be held accountable with the level of her understanding, and just really try and raise her up, even though she's, you know, physically maybe an adult. You understand where she's at mentally, so continue to raise her up in the way that she should go. Continue to feed her little soul and teach her the words of Jesus, the ways of him, you know, give her more of a holistic understanding kind of who he is rather than just him being words on the page. You know, focus on, the Bible tells us to focus on the things that are pure and good and right and true. And when she gets in those negative patterns, or when it seems like something else is affecting her or tugging on her in ways we can't really understand because we don't fully know what's going on inside of her or what all the implications of things like autism, we don't fully grasp that. But when you can notice that as her mom, I would say just redirect her and just really praise over her and pray over her and just, you know, really bring out the best in her and redirect her immediately with just gentleness and compassion. And when you need to, just step away and pray over yourself and just say, Father, replenish my strength, give me serenity, because he knows it's taxing. I mean, he picked you to be her mom, and that is an honor because most people could not handle that. And so you are special, and he chose her to be in your care, and I'm convinced that he will continue to walk with you through it. And it may be a struggle. It may be a struggle the whole time, but try also to remind yourself of the many different things that she's teaching in you and how his testimony is able to just kind of be an exchange between you two. And everything Jesus did was out of compassion. He was compassionate. And so as hard as that is for us, and especially when we're tired and stressed, I really believe that he will fill you up and he will replenish you and he will sustain you and he will just continue to help you, guide her in the way she should go and protect her mind and help to shape her spirit. And, like, you know, just continue to pray for yourself and over her. I mean, I don't know if that helps, but that's pretty much all that.
And I would and I would say the same thing. Valerie, I'm tired. So I would say the same thing. Just try your best. And here's the other thing too. All right, check this out. Because we're in the faith, right? And what does Satan attack the most? Is people like my ex-wife, right? She grew up in a Christian home. Their family was always involved in the church ministry, somewhere in the echelon of the churches, right? So she grew up as a huge spiritual target. You know what I mean? So they're going to target our children. You know what I mean? They targeted me when I was younger, big time. They're targeting my son now. They're targeting you, which I believe it's a spiritual attack on your daughter. All you could do is pray. And, here's the thing. If they're targeting your children, right, that means you're doing your job, plain and simple. That means God's got something special planned for your daughter. God's some special plan for my son. And, with children are targeted because the enemy knows ahead of time. If you're touched by the Lord, if you're assigned a certain, to do something great for the Lord, they know ahead of time, and they're going to do everything in their power to get them while they're young. You know what I mean? So that's what we have to learn. So thank you, Valerie.
Thank you so much,
Amen.
Valerie. I'm going to be praying with you. God bless you, because I know that.
God bless you.
I want to tell you my testimony real quick.
Oh yeah. Good.
I died, and I don't want to make it long because I know it's late. I died, and I was hovering over my body, and I went to, I seen Jesus, and Jesus told me that wasn't my time yet.
That's
and
amazing.
I told him I didn't want to come. I told him, no, I don't want to go back to the earth. And he's like, it's not your time yet. You have to go back.
You'd be like, oh, come on, I want to stay. Next week, right, Valerie, I want you to call and just tell us everything. You know, your
All right.
experience.
Okay.
All right. That'd be awesome. And
okay.
Yes, and God bless. I'll be in touch. I'll talk to you in a little while, Val.
Okay, God bless everyone.
God bless you.
Thank you, Valerie. God bless you.
So, guys, that's it for the phone calls tonight. But yeah, she'll be back in 2 weeks. Next week, I got John Hall and maybe Patricia Hall will joining us. We're going to get into the 10 Commandments hardcore. I mean, I'm not talking about just telling you. We're going to get into it because I am utterly sick to my stomach and very ticked off and pissed off, if you will, with these churches. And then you see people on the Christian groups and all that saying the 10 Commandments were nailed to the cross. They don't matter no more. I'm like, what kind of Bible you people reading? Because it's surely not the Bible you listen to that moron behind the pulpit telling you these lies. And yeah, I'm just like fed up. And John Hall too. I mean, we're constantly on these chat room forums and people, oh, the 10 Commandments are no longer law. Well, yeah, they are. You know what I mean? Plain and simple. So we're going to get into that seriously hardcore next Friday. Friday after that, we're going to have Emileigh back on. What we'll do is, because I apologize. I had to cut people off, guys, because the phone calls were going 15, 20 minutes, which I don't care about because of the time thing. What we're going to do is we're going to do a special show the following Friday. Me and Emileigh, get people's names confused. Me and Emileigh, okay, we're going to do, it's going to be, we'll get on, say hello, get everybody in the chat room, and it'll be your turn to call in and tell us your testimonies, tell us what's going on and all that. And if you want to be personal, please email me, truthradioshow@outlook.com. If you want, and I can forward your stuff over to Emileigh as well. So we're here to help you, not just on the air here. I want to help you personally, you know what I mean? And so please do that. So closing comments from you, Emileigh, before we sign off for the Shabbat here.
I want to thank you, Dan, for your platform and everything you do. I want to thank all of you for your faith and your love of Jesus Christ, for you being here, for you trusting us and trusting your brothers and sisters here to just share your experiences and your pain and your wounds, because we heal together through the Holy Spirit. I truly believe that He has brought His remnant together, and He's still bringing us together from all four corners of the earth, because we are made to sharpen one another, edify one another, confess to one another, and really just have that root in us grow ever deeper and ever stronger into the good ground that He's tilling, and He's bringing forth the increase. I want you to remember that you serve the God of all eternity. He is the creator of the heavens and the earth. There is none beside Him. Mm-hmm. And all power and authority is given to Jesus Christ, and you have to know that no matter what is coming against you, no matter who threatens you, no matter what you've lost, no matter what you've been through, what anyone has done to you, the horrors you've experienced, there is none greater or more powerful. There is none who loves you more. He will not leave you or forsake you. His promises are true. He is the only thing that can heal you. And I don't ever want you to think that it's hyperbole, that it's poetry, any of that. It is so real. It is so true. And if you've seen the dark side, I shouldn't even have to convince you that the light side exists too. And guess what? Spoiler alert, the light wins in the end. We have victory through Jesus Christ. Please don't ever doubt that. Do not walk in fear, and know that you are not alone.
And that, folks, is not a prediction. That it's a spoiler. So, yeah, thank you, Emileigh, and God bless you.
Thank you, guys. God bless you all. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So, guys, I want to close in prayer because everybody that's been listening, and I know some people that called is still a little afraid. So I want to close in prayer and, first of all, pray to our Lord, Yeshua Messiah, Jesus Christ. Lord, forgive us of our own sins, our own trespasses, transgressions, our abominations that we have committed. And please just cleanse us with your precious blood. Cleanse our heart, our mind, our body, our spirit, our souls, and bring us pure before the Father. And Father, we ask you today that you could protect, to send guardian angels, warrior angels, Lord, to protect these people that called in tonight, that are afraid to go into their own apartment, that are afraid to their own family. I pray that you could send your warrior angels and your Holy Spirit, Lord, to protect them, to bind them from any harm, physically or mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, Lord. And and they called in for being attacked in our sleep. I get attacked in my sleep. And I pray that you could bless us while we're asleep and anoint us with your precious blood. Be that barrier so evil can't penetrate. And I pray that you could help these people tonight, Lord, and so they could get a nice sleep. And I love you with all my heart and my soul. Amen. And so, to everybody out there, just don't be afraid of these things. just the best I could say is just stand up against it and have a heart of fierceness, a heart of resistance against evil. You know what I mean? And if you look at one story, for example, I'm going to be real quick here. If you look at Enoch, right, the good Enoch, he was on Mount Hermon, right? Check this out. He's got 200 chief fallen angels, demons, all kinds of crazy stuff everywhere. He's in the middle of the most horrific, evil stuff possible. He's sitting there writing a petition. What does he do? He falls asleep because he gets tired, takes a nap. You know what I mean? And because he had faith in God, he knew God was protecting him. Because realistically, those things could destroy any one of us easily because of supernatural strength and everything else. He took a nap because he didn't fear any of them. And he's seen them. He's seen the horrific doing what they are and everything else. He took a nap. So let that sink in for a minute. You know what I mean? So don't be afraid of these things. And I know when they first come, you got to jump. Absolutely. That's our normal instincts. You know what I mean? But turn that fear into fierceness. And, the Holy Spirit put on the full armor of God and really go after these things. You know what I mean? With the Holy Spirit in you and call upon Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. And that's all I could say for much tonight, guys. And I want to thank everybody out there for joining our show and the chat line, all this stuff. And I know some questions I probably missed, but if you do got a question, guys, anything at all, please email me, truthradioshow@outlook.com, and I will definitely get to you. But we're out here because that's where we created this ministry, for you to voice out, to give your testimony, and also for somebody to come help you. And because here's the thing, every one of us individually, when we're off this thing, we all feel alone. But right now, we're in a fellowship. This is a Shabbat here. You know what I mean? This is my church, whatever. And it's led by God. It's the Dan Bidondi Show. It's a misleading title. It's just, it's your show. It's God's show, not my show. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, guys, enjoy the Shabbat and just be right with the Lord. That's all. And do the best you can. You're not going to be perfect, and don't put that burden upon you, because if that was so, he would have never sent Jesus in the flesh. You know what I mean? God in the flesh. Yeshua Messiah. So other than that, guys, I love you all. Happy Shabbat, and God bless you all. And plain and simple. And be resistance, a fierce resistance against evil. Declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com.